right. Welcome to Across the Bar podcast. And today we have a very special guest. It's a person that I always say is my favorite person that I've hardly ever, maybe I've never really hung around with. Yeah. Fashion designer and founder of Stellari, Janelle.
Hi.
What's up?
Thank you for having me. And yeah, I was just thinking like, wait, I feel like I know him really well, but I don't think we've ever spoken more than 15 minutes in real life. Like I saw you everywhere. Mm-hmm. You were always at things that I was at.
Yeah.
Like we just never talked in person really.
So I remember the first time I think you sold a rug.
Oh, did you buy my rug?
I was on that one rug and I went to your place in downtown. I was like, oh man, cool.
No, but I knew who you were before that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're kind of.
Did you?
I feel you're what I would call one of the cool kids.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, out of 2,000 people, that's pretty good.
Thank you. Well, so like in like 2013, were you working like the help desk computer desk? Okay, so I remember you because my whole thing, my whole thing when I joined a company is to make friends with all the like IT and network engineer people because like those are the dudes like they'll fix stuff for you. Yeah. You won't have to put in. It's like, and they're like the cool people to hang out with because like every other company I'd go at, like work at, people would just be like, "Oh, you play video games?" I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna go find the nerds." And
by the way, when does that start? Where it's just like, "Oh, you gotta hang out with the IT people because they're the cool people."
Well,
no one has said that ever.
I don't know. That's just me. This is just Janelle bias. But so I used to come back there like every 2 weeks because I would break my computer. And you guys were always like, "Oh, it's you again. What are you doing?" Because like, you would add a number to the end of the name. Yeah. And I was like on Wavell-Jimenez like 6.
Oh my gosh.
6 months. And I was just like, oh my God, I hate
you. May hold the record. Because I think the most I've ever seen is like 5. And that's somebody that's worked there for like 10 years already.
Yeah, this was just like the worst. I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not breaking this. I'm not installing weird shit into this. It's just, I don't know, dudes.
But you know what? That's you gave some really good a really good tip right there, because I will give you some inside information that most IT people can be bought.
Yes.
Yeah, we can definitely be bought. And so, when you put your little request like, oh, I need like this. And, usually you have to work in some sort of ticketing system and queue and all that stuff. But, I have been guilty in my career in IT of like, hey, somebody brings me a bottle of Johnny Walker Black at some point. I'm like, 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, Carlos, can you hook me up with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean... I just found that, there's certain people you want to be friends with, and those are the people who will help you out, and, that's who I try to...
See, those are things that you need to tell...
the world?
No. What's a generation before?
Gen X?
Gen X? No. I'm Gen X.
Oh.
Are
you Gen X?
Yeah. 70s girl.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Dang.
I just look real.
I thought you were younger.
Moisturize.
I thought you were younger.
Yeah,
than me.
moisturize, booze, and Coke, and hookers.
Okay. Yeah, that'll keep you young.
Yeah, but no, and then so, you'd be a millennial?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm right on that line.
Okay, and then what comes after that?
Gen Z, Zoomers.
Oh, so then why do so many people like hate on millennials? Because they're still part of the cool kids. It's just like a little bit.
Not really. It's like we're like firmly entering like boomerhood. I feel like millennials are skipping like middle age and just turning into like really crotchety people being like, music these days are terrible, blah this, Zoomers that. I'm like, you guys sound literally like our parents 20 years before our parents did.
Wait, so then what music do millennials think is like lame? Because I thought like millennials love EDM. Is that not?
I mean, no, they still like EDM, but I think they like hate like vaporwave and mumble rap and K-pop and stuff like that. And I'm just like, whatever. Every generation's had good and shitty music.
Did you ever think it was gonna get to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm like people have always just complained about the generations.
All those like Frank Sinatra people are like, oh, look at Elvis. That's not real music.
There's like literally Plato or Aristotle has this quote from ancient Greece, which is essentially these fucking kids, they don't respect their elders and they wear ugly togas. So it's just like, it's like 2,000
Wait, is that real?
Yeah, basically. I don't know the exact quote,
yeah.
but that's like real. It's just like people have always just been like, young people, they suck.
But see, I've actually kind of always been okay with that. I
Really?
like that. I think that's the way it should work. You know, it's like you should hate the previous generations, everything they do. Because I feel that's the way that stuff
naturally progresses.
Naturally progresses.
So like to me, it feels like millennials are like, I'm quickly becoming irrelevant and I hate that. So I'm going to lash out on the generation before. And like, I'm just like, I don't know, dudes, let's just be chill. Let the kids have whatever the hell they want. We were messed up too. Our parents thought we were crazy. Satanic Panic, Beavis and Butthead. Oh my God, you know.
And you know, that's one of the things that because a lot of people now romanticize the 90s a lot, you know, for all that reason. But we had like weird, you know, or like, you know, when that shit happened with like Lil Nas, with like he was like, it was like the devil pole dancing, or he had it had like a drop of blood on the shoe and like 666. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's cute. I liked it when Marilyn Manson did
I was about to say, I was like, I watched the video and people were like, oh, it's so offensive. I'm like Marilyn Manson was like mainstream.
He was jacking off in concerts. He'd cut his stomach and like he'd be bleeding.
Oh, God, what a weirdo.
Yeah.
I mean, but I like super love Marilyn Manson as an edgy 12-year-old. So, yeah.
No, I remember... So I've always grown up around music in my house. Like from being little, just we just always had music playing in the house. And then my brother, who lives in Mexico, he was a DJ. So when I was like, you know, 5, 6 years old and he was a DJ, I was hearing, you know, Culture Club, Wham, like The Cure and all that stuff. And so it all seemed kind of wholesome. Kind of like wholesome, whatnot. But then, like, when I got into, you know, when I was like 13, 14, and I discovered metal. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. And my mom did not understand that, you know, because like Metallica, for instance, right? Which nowadays it seems pretty tame, you know. But she didn't like it. She was like, oh, what is it like? Yeah. And I remember when I got an Iron Maiden album called Number of the Beast, right? And it had like the devil and it said, you know, 666 on it, which for the Catholic family is just like, you know, she goes to the priest, gets holy water to my whole room.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh, I was like, oh my God, what? I'm like, that could happen. I can see that happening.
I'm actually surprised it didn't.
I mean, I grew up in a very Catholic family. We have these like Santo Niños. It's like baby Jesus in like I don't know, like a king outfit, like in the corner of every single room in our house.
During Christmas, did you guys have because we do the thing where we like reenact the the nativity thing, and then I was chosen to carry the little baby Jesus.
I did that for like, because I went to a Catholic school. I did that for that, but I don't think there is particularly
it's like during Christmas and stuff
thing for that.
Oh, okay.
But they will totally. It's a thing in the Philippines during Easter. There's dudes that will like do that entire walk with the cross and then crucify themselves.
Yes.
What the hell? Okay, yeah, that's next level. I can't.
Where's their TikTok?
I mean, I think the blood is against user terms. Yeah.
Oh, even like
that's pretty gory.
Yeah, but like in the US or just in China?
No, here. I'm pretty sure
really?
Like the TikTok has all sorts of like user like things that you can't show.
Oh, that's
I don't really know, but I'm like it's
definitely
boobs.
Are the user terms that you can't like you can't show anything except you karaokeing to a song?
No, I mean, well, you can. I think I actually don't know how like a lot of this stuff gets filtered, but it like magically does.
I never got into TikTok because my first introduction to it was just people just lip singing to stuff and then dancing.
It's different now, and like the algorithm is terrifying. It's so good and so scary, and it's like, well, we're gonna be swiftly living in a future where we can't tell like reality anymore, and I'm actually okay with that. So whatever.
I'm totally okay with that, but I don't know.
Well, like people talk about wanting to be red pilled, right? You know, like from the Matrix, it's like, do you want to live in your crappy blue world that's all fake, or do you want like the red pill and know the reality? And it's like when you look in the Matrix, the reality was garbage. It's like you ate like a I don't know, like an oatmeal slurry. There's like crazy flying squid tentacle things everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you want to just live in like the nice world? So
do you think that's where we're going?
Sure, why not? I don't know. Probably. Like, I feel like in my lifetime, we're going to have a situation where people can essentially live in virtual reality or augmented reality.
I think if we do, I think that we'll look back and think about how this may have started like during COVID, where people were just kind of like at home. The outside world was kind of like a scary place. And I feel that had we had some technology like that during that, where it's just like, oh, well, fuck outside. I can just like, you know, put on this and like see all my friends and like, and it feels real. I feel that there'd be a good amount of people that choose that instead. Yeah. And like, especially like, let's say you're fucking broke. Let's say, you know, you have a shitty job. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah. I just feel like humanity naturally wants to find the thing that makes them happy, no matter how much it inconveniences somebody else or like destroys the planet or whatever. It's just like, and I get it. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You want to take care of yourself and your people. So I just feel that like the minute we can unplug from reality, because reality sucks for like the majority of humans in the world. You know, not every people go hungry. People don't make enough. It's just like there's always stuff. And if you could just get away from all of that, like, why wouldn't you? And why would I even judge somebody who wanted to do that? Because I would do that. I would do that like tomorrow. You know,
I never really thought about kind of like the real, like the percentage of how many people's lives like suck. And by suck, I don't mean like, you know, I mean like I'm going hungry. Like, hey, newborns are dying, you know, because, you know, they don't get the food they get, or malnutrition or bombs or any stuff like that. You know, because I mean, definitely does feel like it's a lottery, really. Yeah. You know, when you're born.
Absolutely. I think I the first time I went to the Philippines was when I was 22. And
were you born here or the Philippines?
Yeah, I was born here.
Okay.
So when I went back to my mom's village, I was like, oh my God, this is where I could have been born and my life would have been so different. I wonder what it would have been like, you know. And then I was also thinking, well, that would have never happened because she wouldn't have but you know. Yeah. Exactly. But I was just like, my life would have been completely different. I don't know if I would have had everything that I have now, because it's just the way I would have gone to school would have been different. I would have been probably the same personality, but in Filipino culture, which would have probably been even more complicated than it already was. So, yeah, it's crazy how much of it is like the lottery. It feels like.
I would hope that in you know, in a future where, you know, we could do like some, you know, virtual life, that you could relive that. Like, you know what? Let's go back and let's like you
do
know,
an alternate universe of yourself.
Yeah.
That would be neat. Oh man, I want to do that.
But back to the whole like millennial and Gen Z and all that stuff. So at least like with music, right? So I was talking about like Number of the Beast, and my mom's just like freaking out. And then, you know, just hearing metal, she was just like, this is not music, you know? I'm like, oh, that makes sense, you know, because you don't understand it. But you know what really, really did it was when she saw Marilyn Manson.
I mean, yeah.
And she was like, wait, what? Like, she did not understand it at all. And then like upside down crosses. And then once you go down that just down that avenue, then all of a sudden, like, I'm into H.P. Lovecraft. You know, I have the Necronomicon. And then she obviously thinks her son's a Satanist at this point. But so at that point, she's just like, okay, my son's going down the wrong road. And what really sealed the deal, what she was just like, enough is enough, was when I played Downward Spiral. You know, because how it starts, like, and it's just like, if you're not into it, it sounds like a lot of noise.
It does sound like noise.
You know? And so she was like, that's it. She took all my CDs and confiscated everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because my parents didn't particularly like music. I mean, my mom loved the Beatles, but she only liked the Beatles when
Filipinos love the fucking Beatles.
They do, but my mom only liked the Beatles when it was like, she loves you. Yeah.
She didn't like the psychedelic stuff? Yeah.
Drug stuff.
Yeah.
I actually was the person who introduced her to David Bowie.
Really?
She stole my CD, and I was like, you could have listened to him when, in
when
the
he was
70s,
around. Yeah.
when he was big. And she's like, yeah, but he was weird. I'm like, okay, well, he's still weird. It's just you don't care anymore about that. But she was like, she took me and my brother to see Metallica when we were 13.
Wait, what?
Yeah, my mom took me to my first concerts, because you couldn't go at a lot of shows unless you were accompanied by an adult. So she took Lollapalooza used to tour the U.S. and she took me to 2 Lollapaloozas.
What?
Yeah.
You had a cool mom.
Yeah, it's I didn't actually recognize how cool that was until I was telling my husband about this, and he was like, "What? Josie is a cool mom." I'm like, "Yeah, actually she is." Because if my kids were like, "I want you to take me to this enter whatever band that's loud and annoying," I'd be like, "Oh my god, do I have to? Okay, we'll go, whatever." So I mean, I really appreciated that. She never had a problem with anything we listened to. Even my brother would blast Metallica, I would also play Downward Spiral, which is not wholesome music to be listening to in a minivan, but she never said
what happened when she heard Closer.
Well, it was on the radio all the time.
Yeah, but it's bleep.
Well, I mean, but what else could he possibly?
I want to
be friends with you.
Yeah.
I want to pet you.
Yeah, I'll pet you like an animal.
But she was just like, okay, can you turn that down? But she never, I never got in trouble for any of that. She knew who 9 Inch Nails was. I had this gigantic poster of Trent Reznor on my wall, which is still there because my parents have kept my
your old
room as a weird shrine. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the way it was when I left in 1999.
You know what's really cool about that is that it's not even let me take you to a concert. It was it's a festival.
Yeah.
So she must have liked some of it, right?
She did. She would always ask later in life, or not in life, but later on, she'd be like, is this Bush? Is this Weezer? It's is this REM?
Yeah.
It's no, it's none of those things. But it suggested to me she liked those bands.
But that's so different though, because it just seems like she was, even though she was a different generation, she was still open to the newer music.
Yeah.
And to kind of loop back around to what we were talking about is that I feel like a lot of people nowadays don't.
Right.
Or maybe it has always been like that, but with EDM, right?
Right.
I come from the, most of my friends, when I hear this, oh, it's just uns. Look, there's no guitars. Are these talented people? These DJs are just pressing play. Yeah. It's pretty much a playlist. But I look at it, I'm like, get over it. Yes, it's not going to be, Guitar Center is going bankrupt. Les Paul is not a thing anymore, but this is not for you.
Well, so I think it's there's always going to be shitty music, and it's okay for you to shit on shitty music. There is lots of terrible EDM, there's lots of terrible punk and everything, but there's good stuff of all of those things. So I get more frustrated with people who are just oh, all the music, there hasn't been a good rap album since 98. It's okay, you just don't listen to music, and you probably never listen to music, because there's people who listen to what's on the radio, and then there's people
when's the last time that you listened to the radio?
Well, I guess I haven't listened to the radio for a really long time. But I listen.
I don't even know what they play on K-Rock. If they play new music on K-Rock?
They play a lot of old music I listen to. It sounds exactly like K-Rock did when I was in college in 2000. But I do listen to Spotify's top 50 in the US just to see, I just feel it's important for my job to understand the audience that I do stuff for, and so I'll listen to that and there's some stuff that I'm like, okay, this is hot trash. But then there's stuff I'm like, what? This is really fun. So I'm like really loving the more soul Motown stuff that's been coming out, like inspired stuff that's been coming out, and not just like this awful like.
You gotta send me this stuff because like when I heard, I think you had mentioned that before, and I was like, wait, are they doing like it's like new but old, or are they sampling? So I can't even picture what that sounds like.
Some of it is samples, some of it is like actually groups playing music, but I think people just want a more like warm, brassy, just jazzy lounge club like feeling, like more intimate and less like giant arena oons, everyone's sweaty and like touching each other. And,
Actually, that was my my first introduction to EDM. I forgot what Coachella that was, because I was one of those people. I'm like, ugh, you know. And my buddy was like, no, come on, like this is so fun. I'm like, you know what? All these people in the Sahara tent can't be wrong. I mean, this is like, they fucking love this shit. So you know what? Stop it.
But
give it a try.
They're wrong.
And then I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, okay, here you go. I was like, oh, okay. Bop. And then I'm like, okay, I'm in there. I'm just like, okay, this is fine. This is hot. So many people here. Everybody's sweaty.
Yeah.
Why is everybody touching each other?
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, the lights go out and just like,
and you're like, oh, I see.
And then the music hits you, and then ooms.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I can totally see why people love this shit.
Yeah. I feel like it's more about the like, you know, the accessories.
Yeah.
That one partakes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could do that sober.
Yeah,
but.
exactly. So like, I feel like good music should be something that you can like listen to and like, or at least because it's pleasurable or because it's interesting and complicated and you want to like break it down. But but there's nothing wrong with like, you know, stuff that's easy to listen to and like on the radio. I just like have a problem less with like people feeling that they like to their music better and people just like blanket saying that anything that they don't like is stuff that is wrong.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know. There's like, it's a big world that there's space for everything. And
you know what I sometimes think about is that because I am lucky enough to speak Spanish, and so I have this other whole set of music that I'm exposed to, which I feel is really good, and it bothers me. I'm like, oh man, some people will never know how good this song is, and then that makes me think of, oh wait, I'll never know how good a lot of these songs in different countries are, and that bums me out. You know, because it's not like, because you can listen to music and music's universal because you can kind of hear the sentiment of people's voices, and if the music is good, the music's good. Yeah. But a lot of the music is, you know, the lyrics and what's behind it. Yeah. And, you know, how do I know that there's not a song out in like Iraq that like slaps, you know?
Yeah. Like some of my favorite, I love like sappy romance ballads. That's like my guilty pleasure. Some of my favorite ones are in Japanese. And when I try to explain it to somebody, they're just like, oh, that sounds nice. I'm like, no, but you have to be able to speak this, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because there's certain things, and I don't know if it's because I was gonna say like there's certain languages where I feel it's easier to kind of get. And for me, Japanese was one of them. It had to do a lot with anime. Where like that kind of exposes you like, oh, let me go down this like Japanese culture rabbit hole. And then you start seeing like all the ballads and all this. I'm like, oh, I get it.
Right.
But then some of them are harder, and that bums me out that I can't.
Right.
Because even like with Japanese, even though if I don't understand fully what it says, like I get it. Yeah,
you can, know? Like, especially with a ballad, you can kind of feel the emotion that is being said, even if you don't fully get it. But there's just like, for everything that is like on the radio, that, you know, most of the stuff that you hear in anime is like, you know, popular music. There's also like, you know, the underground music.
Oh, I'm sorry,
like,
anime.
You know what I mean? Come on. There's like all the like the fun underground stuff that like, not only will it never be heard by most Japanese people, like everyone won't, and it's just like, because there's like a million bands of talented people out there in the world, and not everyone makes it. So it's just like, well, it's cool that I was one of 5 people in this place with your friend, and you guys were awesome. But, you know, you probably never get anywhere because that's just how it is.
So, like, it seemed like you had like a pretty cool, you're a pretty cool teenager. You were going to Lollapalooza when you were like 13.
I feel like we say that now, but I was not a cool teenager, I think, when I was in high school myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like when I look back on it, I do sound kind of awesome. Like at the time,
yeah,
I was certainly not treated like a cool teenager.
Well, where did you go to school?
When?
Yeah. Oh no, where?
Oh, Indiana.
Oh, that's right. Oh, okay.
So I went to a Catholic school in Indiana that has actually been in the national news because it's racist or / homophobic. So that's awesome.
But the school?
Yeah.
Oh,
but it was
what happened?
Well, somebody outed one of the counselors who's a lesbian woman in a marriage, and they fired her for that, even though she'd been working there for 25 years, and she was outed.
Dang, how did she keep that on her wraps for so long?
I think a lot of people knew, but because
I would love to see a picture of this person and just be like, really, really.
So I guess because this person on Facebook basically like blasted it out, they couldn't pretend anymore, so they had to be like, oh well, we're firing her.
Yeah. Oh, just because of that.
Yeah. And this year they only
not even like, oh, she's lesbian, but she has an OnlyFans or anything like that.
No, it was like, oh, she's a lesbian and this goes against our morality clause.
Oh wow. But I thought the Pope already said like, yeah, it's cool.
He did, but you know, private.
I'm sure like there's either like outrage from people that go there, or she sucks, and people are like, finally we have a reason to let her go.
She was my counselor. She was all right.
Oh really?
Yeah,
oh shit.
She's been there for like 25 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I had this like deep connection with her, but I was like, wait, what? And then recently they also decided that they should change their name from the Roncalli Rebels to, I don't know what it is now.
To the what?
From the rebels. So it was, when I went to school there, it was literally a Confederate soldier with a Confederate flag as the mascot in a Catholic school in a Union state of Indiana.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait, Indiana?
Yeah. So needless to say, I did not have like an amazing like high school experience. I kind of like was that really like angsty like emo girl who's just like, I'm just gonna listen to like Joy Division and 9 Inch Nails and you guys fucking suck and stuff like that. And,
that's
like,
cool.
I'm gonna watch anime and like I hate you all and I'm gonna sit on IRC and like make a bot and just whatever. Yeah. So
see, and funny. I mean, you mentioned it where it's like it seems cool now, but definitely like being into Joy Division at that time, like that was so niche. You know, especially with everything that was playing around that time. Like, you must have been the weirdo.
Really weird kid. Because back then, you had, like, now, like, young people can legitimately love Joy Division because you can just look it up on Spotify. Where back then, it's like, I had to either download it from an IRC bot or go to a record store where I was, like, crazy intimidated because I was like 13 and like, you know, these are the cool the cool record store dudes and they're seriously going to be judging. So it was hard. It was like hard to like learn.
Is that where you
music.
Get your judginess from?
It might be. I've always been a hater and I don't really have a problem with that. I try to like be as compassionate and empathetic as possible and like understand that everyone has their own story and experiences, but I can't help it if certain things suck.
Yeah.
So.
No, I knew I liked you when I think it was like a Palm Springs trip that you were planning. Yeah. I think it was Palm Springs. But then you put like, absolutely no one touches my playlist. If you touch it, you die.
Yeah, exactly. No one touches my playlist or you're out. Like, it's like, if I organize this, all I ask, I'll do everything. All I ask is I don't have to listen to your shitty music.
Was it, I mean, Indiana in the 90s doesn't strike me as a large Asian population.
No, I was one of like 4 Asians in my high school, and I had so many crazy experiences. Like, I once got a letter from the principal saying like, you are Asian. Can you please speak to the Asian community of like Indianapolis to get them to come to our school? And I was
what?
And then like I
did you?
No, I was just like, what do you mean like speak Asian?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? One time,
fellow Asians.
Hello Asians.
Gather around.
I know all of you. Another time I had a substitute teacher say something like, well, I understand like racism towards Asians. It's like, you know, we go to Vietnam to fight a war and then we see you driving your BMWs around and I'm just like, one, what? And like, and then two, I was like, I said to this guy,
you know what's funny is that they're trying to be like, you know, like nice about it. It's like, oh, you know, you can understand, you know, it's like, hey, like,
is he?
you know.
Well, he wasn't really being, at the time, his tone was more like, well, I understand.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
I understand because, you know, my dad went to Vietnam and he comes back and he sees
It really
you
meant
guys.
like, you should understand.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is why
and
you
I was
deserve
just
all
like,
this.
I think if you worked hard enough, you could also have a BMW. So
I love that that's the thing. It's like you and your BMWs
it was like the stereotype.
and owning houses.
The stereotype in Indiana is that everyone is like, they have like the real model minority thing. Whereas like, you know, in California, people know that there's like hood Asians and there's super rich Asians and there's all sorts. But in Indiana, it's like everyone's a doctor kind of Asian. And that's not who my parents like literally grew up in the third world. So
you being like into like this clique, you know, not a clique, but like, you know, into like goth music or whatever. Did you have like other friends? I'm sure you had other friends that were into that, right? And
really.
Really.
Yeah. Like I had friends who were who were tolerant of it and like, you know, liked it as well as, you know, but you know, they might kind of like Nine Inch Nails, but they mostly like Nirvana or they mostly liked Bush or something like that. So like I had people who kind of liked the same stuff as me, but most of my friends who really liked what I liked were like internet friends, basically.
Really?
Yeah. I like grew up on the internet, basically.
It was a little bit different for me because during like high school, I went to a school that at that time was like primarily black and white. There was definitely Hispanic people, but like the Hispanic people were into like Spanish rock or like hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, I was the only weirdo that liked metal, industrial, and it was like, ew, like, why do you like white music?
Yeah, I got that too.
Okay, you did.
Yeah, I did. The Filipinos in Indianapolis only listened to hip hop, and they were just like, "You're not real Asian if you like listen to rock music." And it's and you know, I would go to these festivals, and it felt like, to be fair, it's Indiana, but like I was literally one of maybe 10 like non-white people. So yeah, it was weird. So I feel like I'm really used to like, I don't know, like fighting against the wind, I guess. Yeah.
I went through that so much. And what was funny is that, so, you know, you end up hanging around with the people that, you know, like same music. And we were all, because we liked metal in you know, this is Bellflower, so it's mostly like, you know, hip hop and like Spanish rock and all that stuff. We just kind of formed our own little band of misfits.
Yeah.
And the white people like didn't really care that it's like, oh my God, it wasn't like, oh my God, look, it's Mexican, like he likes metal. But it was funny though, if you go to Mexico, metal is like the shit.
Yeah.
Like that's like, everybody listens to that. So it always weirded me out because I would go visit Mexico and they'd listen to Metallica, Megadeth, Tool, and all this stuff. And then I'd come here and then I was just like the weirdo of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like metal has just always been one of those genres in the U.S. that a lot of people listen to, but like, is like, it's like the people who are in that group are really passionate about it and really listen to a lot of metal music, but like everyone else is like, oh, I don't like, people are always like, I don't like country music or metal.
Yeah.
Like they always say that. And it's like, I mean, but how much metal have you really listened to?
You know, in my older age, I feel like I know so many more people that are into country now. And I don't know if it's like the pop dumb that now, because now it's like, it's hard to tell. It's like, you can just tell maybe because they'll have like a twang to it or something like that, a slight one. But for much of it, like it just sounds like pop music, right?
I mean, I like bluegrass a lot. I just never liked country western, you know, Garth Brooks and like stuff like that.
What about older stuff like Hank Williams Sr.?
It's okay. Like I'm less into like folk music. That's like my husband's like jam. I just call it like country bears music.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like a guitar and a dude playing on a jug. I don't know, something like that. Exactly.
What did you want to be like when you were in high school, what did you want to do when you grew up?
So when I was like 12, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. I didn't know what that meant, but
where did you hear about a corporate lawyer?
I don't know, but it sounded cool to me. And so I would say that to people, and everyone would be like, "What?" Or like, "Wow, where did you learn that word?"
You've been watching a lot of TV.
Yeah, exactly. And I think around 16, I was like, I found out what a corporate lawyer actually does. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like, part of the machine, fight the man. I can't do that.
Yeah, that's squishing the little man and then like fighting for the machine.
I got this crazy idea in my head that I would work at the UN.
Okay.
And that was just my
what about it? Like, did you just like, it's...
Yeah, it's just like being a corporate lawyer. One, I've always been just like, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's because my parents are immigrants and I always felt out of place in Indiana myself and always kind of wondered what my identity was, typical like young teen identity crisis. But I just like felt more connected to as being like a global citizen, I guess. So I just felt like maybe I could help the world or something. So I just got it in my head as a 16-year-old, I'm going to work at the UN. And just like being a corporate lawyer, I didn't know what that meant. Yeah. But that's what I wanted to do.
I still don't even know what that is unless it's like a translator
so that's what I wanted to do.
The person that sets up all the little
That's what I wanted to do initially. And so I worked in Japan at a city hall for 3 years. I was a coordinator.
In high school?
No, when I left after college, yeah. And so I taught myself Japanese basically through anime, manga, and just going to some classes here and there. But at the end of the day, I'm mostly self-taught. So I was working in Japan for a while, and I ended up being able to from there get a job at the permanent mission of Japan to the UN. And so
Oh really?
Yeah. So
was that kind of I know you said you said, I want to do that, but then you kept striving for that?
Yeah, and the thing was, people kept telling me I couldn't do it. And people were like, oh, well, you never learn enough Japanese to be able to translate. You'll never do this or that. And I was just like, and even now I'm just so fueled by vengeance and rage. Just I will show you. I hate you right now, so I'll show you. And so I felt like I was just all right, now I'm going to study Japanese and international relations and go to one of the best schools in the country for that. Now I'm going to work in Japan as a coordinator for international relations. Now I'm going to work at the Japanese mission for the United Nations. This is the perfect path to the State Department. Yeah. But then, 18 months into working at the UN, I'm like, oh God, this is just the worst. This is not
what about
what I wanted to do in life at all. So it's one, it's crazy bureaucratic. Of course.
It's a form of politics, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but it's crazy bureaucratic. So Japan, one of their pet projects was they want to change, I don't know if they've done it yet, but they wanted to change the rule book, the handbook for the UN, how you operate. It's like a run book, basically. And one of the things that they couldn't get everyone to agree on, you need to get enough people to agree on this thing they wanted to change, is what you name a meeting. If you have an ambassador, 2 ambassadors, and then 2 sub-ambassadors and some aides, is that is that this kind of meeting, or is it a plenary meeting, or is it a meeting of the blah blah council? And they couldn't get people to figure that out since 1972, and this is 2008. So I was just okay, so you can't fix that. I had met so many ambassadors from random countries that were part of the former Soviet bloc or whatever, who were clearly just some rich dude's son, some hot 25-year-old who's the ambassador of whatever. And I was just this is not how I will ever affect change. And also I just didn't like the day-to-day work of turns out I don't really want to read a ton of case studies and case law and write briefings for diplomats. And then if I ever became a diplomat, just basically be the mouthpiece for my government. Because if I had stayed on that track, I would have worked under the Trump administration. I would have had to defend things I don't necessarily agree with, or maybe I do agree with, but now I have to explain that to friends. And so it's just, I'm kind of glad that I changed tracks.
How much harder was that because you're not Japanese?
So I think, I don't know, because people in Japan think I'm Japanese.
Oh, okay.
And even when they know I'm not Japanese, because I am able to mimic being Japanese. Like, I'm a really good chameleon. I'm good at like picking up what people expect of me and like acting accordingly. And one of the things I heard in Japan all the time, which was not necessarily something I thought was a compliment, but was like, oh, you are so Japanese, you really understand us. And I was just like, cool. But also I'm afraid I'm like developing a separate personality, which is something that my friends who had known me before I had lived there long term, they were starting to say. They're like, you are really two people now, and it's weird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And because I hear so many people and be like, oh man, like I just wish I could just go live in Japan. And it sounds cool. It's like, oh my God, they're just like so polite, so clean over there. And like, oh my gosh, it's like the food. And so everything that I hear is just always like, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? But I'm assuming it's probably a lot different than what people expect.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure there's all that is still true, but.
Exactly. It's just like, well, one, it's any other country, so it's going to have its positives and negatives. And like, oh my God, I get so tilted when people are like, oh, it's so clean there. Everyone is so orderly. And it would always be these dudes at Riot or whatever, video game company X. Yeah. And they'd be saying that. But meanwhile, they have like a fucking cup stack. And it's like, your ass could not live in Japan, because they would scream at you. Like, and they will. Like, they think it's really rude for people to walk and eat at the same time. I've had random old men grab me by the arm or just come out of nowhere and be like basically like, stop eating that ice cream while you're walking. Like, and like, it's like a nation of Karens, but that's exactly why it's as orderly. And you don't get like orderly cleanliness without people enforcing it, because otherwise everyone's just going to throw their shit everywhere. That's what we want to do. It's convenient.
Yeah. No, it's so funny. Man, I was just having a conversation with somebody. I forgot who it was, but we're talking about that specific thing, which is like, oh, you can't eat and
walk.
You can't eat and walk at the same time. And I was like, you know what? It's because Japan learned that the minute that you allow it once, forget it.
Yeah.
It turns into like New York.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, at first I was like, oh, why is this whatever? But then it's like, wait, this makes sense, because, there's no spilled food on the ground. There's like, everything, people eat their stuff and throw it away right at the trash bin in front of the 7-Eleven or whatever. And it's just, I don't know, it's more cleanly and orderly. I get it. Like,
I'm just picturing someone from Japan visiting the US like in the 70s or 70s and 80s, where like people just, I'm done with Taco Bell. Throw it.
I'm pretty sure they did that in the 70s and 80s too.
Oh, really?
Probably. Like I know that like in the prefecture I lived in, we would constantly get these little old ladies just being like, I don't understand why I have to recycle. I never had to recycle before. So I feel like it was probably the same. But there was just like, because, I don't know, people really believed in like social responsibility and duty. Well, when like the government says we're going to recycle now, people just are like, okay, we're going to do that. So I think you just have much faster shifts in attitude and like coming together to do something. And like, one of the great things about the US is that like we're really independent thinkers, but that's also like a really bad thing about the US, because then you have everyone being like, well, I don't want to recycle, I just don't feel like it, like I don't know, like I need my cans for whatever reason. Just,
and so you're like, oh, UN, not for me. So then did you still stay in Japan afterwards, or then did you move back to Indiana?
Well, I was in New York at the time to work at the UN. So I went from Japan. I went to school at USC, and then I moved to Japan. Well, and then I moved to Australia, and then I moved to Japan.
Australia?
Yeah, I was following a boy. It was
okay.
Anyway.
But that's fun though. I so regret not like in my early 20s just like doing shit like that. Where like, okay, like,
Well, that's the time to do it. Like, because I firmly believe the perfect age is 28. Because that's when you're old enough for people to take you seriously at work, if you're like really talented, and you're also young enough to be a complete fuck up in life, and it's okay.
And it's okay,
And that's when I left the UN feeling like a miserable failure, was 28, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so old, I've like ruined my life. And it's like, I'm 28, I'll figure this out. So
though at 28 it does feel like, man, I should have had it together by now.
Yeah,
right? And now you're kind of going to start over again. It's it could be scary.
It is really hard, and especially that was like 11 years ago at this point, and I feel like especially back then, even it was like, wow, you're almost 30 and you haven't like figured out what you're going to start all over again.
Yeah,
it was terrifying.
So then what did you move on to?
So I have been, it was the perfect time and the perfect place. So it was like 2009, Facebook went, expanded in 2007. YouTube came out, I believe, in 2007. So basically, no one knew how to use any of these things. They knew they were important, and they knew they can't just, Coca-Cola now knows at this time, like, oh, you can't just put my intern on our Twitter page. Like, you need somebody to, like, figure this stuff out. And I just had happened to basically be living on the internet for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And I understood how to use Google Ads. I understood SEO. I knew, like, a lot of, like, community building. And so I just started applying to startups and, like, doing volunteer work and doing, like, community management. And I was able to get a job in social media because at the time there was very little tech talent there because everyone was in Silicon Valley. So if you could find somebody who could do it, you would just hire them. And I was basically headhunted and jumped like 3 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In like 5 years.
So you stay at a place for a little bit and then move on to next one.
Somebody be like, here's more money and a better role. It's like, okay, what's wrong with that? And I was, in the entire time, I was like, well, I would like to work at a startup or the video game industry. And like, that's how I got at Riot, because at the time, League of Legends was actually my favorite game. I was really impressed with how Riot did like community management and community building. And there was this role called International Publishing Manager in Japan, and it was literally everything I had done before.
Yeah.
And so I came into interview, and they're like, we don't have a Japan office, but would you like to work on our Southeast Asia stuff? I'm like, yes. And so, moved back to LA, which is a city I've always loved.
Yeah.
So.
Isn't it crazy how, and I'm assuming back then, just being social media manager, I mean, I'm sure people were just like, what? That's a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like,
so what do you do? Just post Facebook?
You're like,
or
so
what?
you just like post on Facebook all day?
Yeah.
Like, well, there's a little more to it than that, but at the end of the day,
Yeah, and now it's like, that's a full-on
it is.
job, and it's respected. People know it. People know like how important your online presence is.
To be fair, though, since then, they have added a lot more features that are more complicated to make it more of a full-time job. At the time, I think it was more of a marketing and understanding the internet community, sort of.
To do a job like that, do you have to have like a degree in marketing and stuff like that, as well as, because I mean, so many people now know how to use social media, right?
Yeah,
but
I feel like probably if somebody wants to go into it now, having like a digital marketing background would probably be really good. Back then, that just wasn't a thing.
What do you think? Who do you think is running like Wendy's, Arby's?
Oh, it's agencies. One of my friends, I won't say who it is, but she works on KFC's account, and like all those crazy ideas come from her team, basically. So
is it just a group of people like, oh my God, it feels like it'd be like a writer's room. Yeah,
it sounds like it. Like, so they come up with the tweets, and like, they have like respected copywriters who get to manage an account and, tweet other accounts, which are usually all run by the same people. When, you'll sometimes see those screenshots on Reddit where it's like, Little Caesars responded to Domino's or something like that. It's usually the same agency.
Oh, really? Yes. Oh, okay.
So, like,
I'm just picturing it as like a 23-year-old, like in bed.
I mean, it could be.
In bed, just like.
I mean, it could be.
Take this, Arby's.
But he totally is making a ton of money.
Yeah.
Working for one of those big digital agencies too.
And so, so then you were doing that for the Southeast Asia office, but what I knew, that's not what you were doing. So how did you move on from that?
What was I doing when you met me, when you knew me?
Skin stuff.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, at Riot, I had like, in the 6 years I was there, I had like 10 different bosses and like.
Really?
It's not great. And a whole bunch of different roles. So after that,
was it 10 different bosses because you moved around or because?
Yes, and also that. And also turnover. But after that, I helped launch the Japan office, and then I worked to sort of fix up our YouTube page. That was just like a side project I did. And then I worked on Champion Team for a while. Yeah. So I worked on like Talia and Tarek's rework and some stuff like that. And then I moved to the skins team.
Yeah. And did you, because, you know, for, at least for League of Legends, you know, you play a game, and if you just tell, like, oh my God, you're from Riot, and then you're like, oh yeah, I work on Champions team, their jaws just drop, right? Oh my gosh, you work on Champion team. So it's like a sexy role like that, and skins.
Yeah.
Did you prefer one over the other? Was one?
I mean, I think I liked skins better in general, but I mean, I feel like with Champion team, the people who get really passionate about champions are also really competitive, so they also tend to be super toxic.
Yeah.
So like I've had like some really, really toxic people in my Twitter, mentions. And I've learned that the best way to deal with toxicity is to just be super nice to them back.
Oh, I thought it would be opposite. I'm like, no, feed into the toxicity.
No, like people would be like, why don't you go suck a dick? And I'd be like, okay, where? And they'd just be like, shut up.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, I guess I win.
Yeah, I remember one of the things that we had to do was where we had to kind of go through like the support tickets that these people get. And man, some of the shit that people said
is crazy, right?
Yeah, it's like, man, can you tell whoever made Tarek, they're a fucking stupid piece of shit, and I hope their dog dies, and I'm gonna fuck their mom. Da.
I wouldn't believe how many people got salty at me over things like, I hate what you did to Ari's hair. She's supposed to have bangs. It's like, you need to chill out. And they'd be like, you don't know anything about fashion, though this is so ugly. I'm like, I have looked at your profile picture on Twitter. Like,
please tell me you said that. I was gonna say.
Like I said, I had to be, I couldn't be.
One, you were working there,
but two, I always try to kill it with kindness. And I'd be like, I understand, but we all have different styles of dress.
And then, so then, I mean, it seems like you were in a good spot. What made you, and plus, like, especially tech or video game companies, they tend to be pretty cushy.
Yeah.
You get, like the food and this, and you can, you get PTO, and you can dress however you want, and you can cuss. And
yeah, I mean, having worked in a lot of different companies, there were a lot of things I really loved about Riot.
Did you get restless or?
No, without going too deep into it, I felt like I wasn't being appreciated. Mm-hmm. Like all I would ever hear is like kind of negative stuff about what I couldn't do, and no one seemed to notice any of the things that I was doing well. And I felt like I constantly had to fight battles. Like, like I shipped KDA and I helped fight for that.
Yeah,
to make that happen.
That's crazy. Yeah,
and I picked to the champions for that, and
Oh really?
Yeah, and
oh shit,
because I was the product manager on that. But then I had to fight for Coven, and people were like, which is like
there's that goth girl coming back,
which is like my thing, goth high fashion. My team was super excited.
That's actually my favorite skin line.
Thank you.
Yeah.
People were super excited about it. My team was super excited about it. Like I knew there was a subsection of players who really wanted it. And there were leaders on Riot who were just like, we don't know why she
more
did it.
anime. No, more anime characters.
They were actually really rude about it. They were like, oh, we don't know why. It's just like her passion project. It's like,
really?
I'm like, somebody greenlit this. Like, the team's excited about this, and how come you never told me this directly? Like, I heard about this from the grapevine, and then when it did well, they're like, we don't...
Oh, really? So it was like secondhand?
Well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it did well, and people were like, oh, we don't even know why it did well. It must be, luck. And it was just like, what the hell? And I was just like, after,
But you had been there for a while.
I know. After, months of that, I was like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah. In that, regardless of where you work at, that's so important to feel appreciated and validated, regardless if you get free lunch or
honestly, not. If somebody had just been like, good job, that was amazing, you did well, and changed absolutely nothing else, I don't get bigger projects, I don't get more money, I would have probably been totally fine with it.
Yeah. A question for you, because a place like Riot, who, I mean, before I worked at Riot, I worked at Yahoo across the street. And we used to make fun of everybody. We're just like, oh, could you imagine working in a cult? It's like everybody has the same hoodie,
it's true, though.
Just kind of onto the same shit.
It's
and
true.
And so it has a way of kind of bringing you in like that, where, you know, you believe in the product so much, and then all the people around you are into the same things, you know, that you are in, you know, same kind of headspace. And, you know, you have this whole thing about the player experience first. And so then you feel like you're doing something, you know, you're probably, you know, there's people solving cancer, and then you bring value to players, you know, same fucking thing. And then you don't work there anymore. And then I'm, you know, because I thought about that before. I'm like, it's got to be so weird to be in a place that's so immersive. And then what's weird too is that you still keep a lot of those friends who still work there. And then all of a sudden now you're out of the loop. Right? It's like, oh my God, remember when we did this? And you're just like,
Yeah. I mean, so I think for me, what helped a lot was I had lived in LA before, and I have friends here. So I never just had like a Riot circle only. But I know people. Leaving Riot is actually like breaking up with somebody. It's almost everyone I know who's either left or been let go. It's like a really, really hard transition period. It was for me too, even though I left of my own volition. It's just like, it's like you said, like one of the best things is the culture. It's like, you know, everyone is basically on the same page. Everyone you work with is probably smarter than you are. At least you feel that way. Like you love the product, you play the product, you think about players before you even think about yourself. And then like when that's also the worst thing about it is because you're so connected, when you're taken away, it feels like you have nothing. And it feels like part of your heart has been ripped out of you. And I know that sounds insane because we're talking about a job, but that's how it feels. And like, it was crazy because I'd always told myself, like, you are not beholden to a job, like never give like your like place of employment that much of you, but I did it anyways because it's easier said than done. Easier,
especially in a place like that. You know, it's like if you look at Bank of America or something like that, it's probably a lot easier to just be like, oh, you know, like they'll let go of me, like whatever, so fuck them too. But I can only imagine too, like there's so many people that move. You know, and this is their first time living in LA, and really the only friends or family they have is at that workplace.
I feel like some of that is on them though. Like it's something that I've always kind of like cautioned, I guess, or advised people who like, you know, were fresh out of college and moved here. It's like, I know how tempting it is to like let Riot be this extension of college where you live a block away. And
it definitely does feel like that for a lot of people.
Every meal there, and you're there every weekend in the PC bong, and you see the same like 5 people. Like I know how tempting that is, but like this is a big city. You should drive around. You should make other friends. And like inevitably when a person gets let go, it's like their entire world shatters because you always find out is like no matter where you work, no matter how like tight you think you are with people, there's always going to be about 75% of them who were just work friends. Like, and it's just like, that's okay. That's just, you know, I think like relationships should have a beginning and an end, and it's okay to have an end, and it's okay to have a relationship or a marriage or whatever for when it's like good for both people. So I get work friendships, but it's still hard because there were tons of people who I thought I was friends with, and it just turned out, after all, I was just their work friend.
But you know what I wonder too is because just like in relationships, the hardest part is usually right after. You know, and just like a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and then you get that, you know, you start drinking and you get that urge to want to text back, and then you start thinking like, oh, maybe could we have made it work, or like this is something I did, or you know, so you start going through these things and thoughts of like maybe this was a mistake. Did you go through that at all, or
leaving Riot? No. Like I feel leaving was really complicated because half of the time I would feel like, oh, thank God. But then the other time I would be like so angry. There's like anger when I left because I just felt slighted by the time I had left. Because like all that Kotaku stuff. Like I was in interviews with lawyers for months and like did KDA. And I remember I got my 9 box. And I got some really ridiculous score in my mind. And I was just like...
Wait, what's a 9 box?
You don't have to do that? That's nice. It's like this box of like 3, 3, and 3, and they rate you from 1 through 4 on like, are you good or bad? And I got a lower score than I had the year before, and I was like, "Are you?"
Even though you launched KDA and all that stuff,
and the Kotaku stuff was happening, and I was just like, "Are you serious?" I was just so angry. And then some other stuff happened right before I left, and I was just like, "I can't believe." Again, like, you know, I gave everything of myself to this place, and that's how they treated me. And so that's that good and bad part. Because I think, like, I've left tons of companies, and I never had that before. It's like, cool, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's like, you have your friends there. I'm still friends with a lot of people, but it's like, it wasn't like this place you gave part of yourself to. And I think that was the part that made me angry.
Now, part of it, you know, to talk about, your about Stellari.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were already kind of like working on the side, or was it something like, hey, you know what, now let me kind of regroup and like, what do I really want to do?
I've been thinking about it for a while, and like, so by
the way, really fucking cool name.
Stellari.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's my summoner name.
Can't let it go, can
you? No. I didn't know what to call it. It was like the best thing I could come up with.
That's so hard though. Like thinking about a name for something like that. That's gonna be.
I know, and like the thing is, I actually believe people spend too much time trying to name things. Like Apple is a stupid name, but we're just used to it. Like, what the hell is? I know That's what true. Google is from, but really, like, what does that mean to most people? So, anyways, but when I was young, I wanted to be a fashion designer. Like when I was like a child. Up until like my mom basically told me I would never make money doing that, and she didn't mean anything mean by that. That's just, you know, she's from the Philippines, grew up very poor. This is what she's thinking about. I get it.
Because I'm thinking she's thinking like thinking like being in Mexico. It's like, oh, you're a fashion designer. It's more like, oh, you're just gonna make clothes, like, you know, for people, like you know, it's not like, oh, you're trying to be Gucci or something like that. It's like you're just gonna.
Yeah, and so I have I actually found all these drawings because my parents left my room like a shrine of these things that I drew when I was a kid, of like outfits, and I was just like, ooh, this one might be cultural appropriation. Yikes. But I'd been thinking about
why were you wearing sombreros as a little kid?
It was like a dude with dreads. It was very Rastafarian inspired dress. But when I travel for Riot, I was always just like so frustrated. And like the big thing for me, I was in Paris for
Have you ever lived in Paris?
No, but I would love to.
Yeah, okay.
I'd love.
I'm surprised
Paris.
Actually.
I would love to.
Yeah.
It's actually where Chad and I's like real meet cute was. But when I got off this plane, I was just like, why I have to walk all over the city, and like I hate like all the clothes I have are either for business or for esports, and I don't want to walk Paris with like a Riot shirt on, and I can't wear heels all around the city, so I guess I'll wear hiking clothes. And I just like hated it so much because I wanted to be that girl who had like the cool leather jacket and the boots and the scarf, and like I was gonna carry a thing and people were gonna think I was Parisian, and it was gonna be amazing. But my first day there, like people thought I was a tourist, and that just like made me so mad. And I was like, why aren't there nice clothes for women to wear on a plane and get off the plane and still look nice? And why do women's backpacks suck? Like, I don't want to carry this JanSport backpack that I have around, or this other Riot backpack I have. I want like something nice and cute. So I'd been thinking for a while, like that after my like next stage in life was to launch a fashion company.
Why didn't you do that earlier?
To be honest, I think I'd thought about starting businesses earlier, but I think I was stuck in this mindset of like, one, fear and just inventing excuses, and two, like, honestly, I would always say things like, I could have been a fashion designer if my mom hadn't said that. And then at some point, you know, I'm like 35 at this point when this happened, I was just like, I don't know, maybe it's time to stop blaming my parents for this stuff. Like, I've had a lot of time to do this, so if I'm not doing it, it's not her, it was me. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So,
And so, so finally you leave your previous job, and then you're like, I'm going to do this. And then COVID hits.
Oh my God, yeah. It was...
Talk about a dream crusher.
Yeah, it was tough because... I had like plans to launch a collection, and I had startup money that I like, sold some like 10-cent shares that I had, and like I had all these plans. But then when COVID hit, I was just like, well, I can't just make dresses now.
Yeah.
Like, one, I don't think we're gonna be traveling. Two, we have this mask shortage, so maybe I should do that instead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, that was super smart, because I remember seeing like, going to launch Stellari, and then COVID happened, and you just pivoted to that so quickly.
Yeah, I do think so. Just like do things without thinking. I mean, like, I'm glad I did it, but it was not exactly a thing that I certainly didn't make money on it, but I also did not even break even on it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was just something.
Because you were donating as well, right?
I basically preceded making 10,000 masks, and then I donated them all. And then these are not those masks, but yeah.
No.
Those are the ones that I ended up selling later that are made of this like really lovely material called tencel.
So
eucalyptus.
Oh, say that again. Was it?
It's this fabric is called tencel. It's made of eucalyptus, and like it's actually like the world's most sustainable fabric, and it feels so nice.
That was the thing I was going to tell you, because obviously, pretty quickly into that, we're like, okay, so I guess we're going to be wearing these for a while, and you saw so many people, outside the Walmart, like, oh, here, 2 for $5. And everybody just started selling it, and, always trying to help out. And so I'd get them. But when I ordered yours, and I like, first of all, like the packaging, like,
oh, thank you.
It felt, let me see. It felt like, oh, this just like feels cool.
Yeah.
First of all. But then when you touch it, that's where I'm like, oh, this feels good. And it feels good in my hands. It's going to feel good in my face.
And I also made this cardigan out of that fabric.
Oh, is that the cardigan?
Yeah, it is. I'll show it to you later.
Yeah.
Look, it's like, it's got a hood, and it's got like so many pockets.
Yeah. So many pockets.
I like...
girls in pockets.
It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
So something I learned... Okay, so that's an excellent segue into what I was going to say about the fashion industry is like, I came into this knowing absolutely nothing. Would not recommend this to anyone.
Oh, really?
I knew nothing. All I knew was like, well, I am a product manager, marketer, producer. I can figure this out. And it's like, so a lot of things are similar, like especially pre-production stage, but like actually making stuff and holding inventory, that was like brand new to me. Like supply chain stuff. That's like my biggest like.
And then you had supply chain stuff during COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was able to get around is I only wanted to work with manufacturers in the U.S. anyways. So I took what would have been like a 3-month lead time, and then like cut that down to like 6 weeks.
Question for you: Why did you want to do that? Because especially I feel like starting, and you're worried so much about money, and like you'd probably want it to be the overhead to be as small as possible.
Yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like something that would cost, like making a mask like that would probably cost at most $1 or maybe $2 a piece at most. And like
these?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like, because like...
Dang, then how much do the other ones cost?
Well, so making those is like something like $7.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's like, and it like making these cardigans, I could probably make them in China for like maybe like $5 to $10, but like making them here is like almost $40. And it's like, I wanted to, I think people should buy American, not necessarily because I'm like, oh, buy American patriotism.
Indiana.
Yeah. It's more like, you should support our local economy, and especially during COVID, you should be doing that. And also from like a sustainability and environmental aspect, it's like it costs a lot of fuel to take stuff on a plane or on a boat over here, and then also all we're really doing is exporting our pollution to another country. Yeah, and that also super sucks. And I know it's complicated because I have a very distant family member who worked in a sweatshop in the Philippines, like what we would describe as a sweatshop. And then during that whole like, Nike's making stuff out of sweatshops thing that was happening in like 2000s or so, I was totally there out in front of the Nike on Michigan Avenue, like picketing as a radical college youth. But
as you should.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I found out when I visited there that like that person's factory moved, and now they were living in like Dubai, being a cab driver and sending money back to the Philippines. And is that better?
Yeah.
Like the family didn't think so. It's like they were getting a little bit more money, but now their dad was living in Dubai. So it's like really, really complicated.
You know what though? Like I feel like all of it, I know helping people sounds like it makes people feel good and stuff like that, but also like you shouldn't hold yourself responsible to want to like, help out, making it's not, their fault.
I mean, I can't. So there's always something that my mom would say, because I've always been that person that was like, there are people dying in Africa. And my mom's like, okay, but you can't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Yeah. And I think that's like part of the idealism of going into the UN too, is like, I have just like, I think about these things all the time and I can't stop. It's like my anxiety brain. I'm always thinking about things, but I don't judge people for the decisions they make. Everyone has reasons why they do stuff. It's just with me and the company I wanted to run, I wanted to do this, even if it meant it would be more difficult and more expensive for me. So I've just basically been doing everything on hard mode, and it has been very, very, very challenging.
Yeah. I like the whole Made in US thing. It's, and like I said, like how you said, less about patriotism, but if you're trying to be conscious of, especially like the work environment and things like that, I think it's a lot easier for you to keep track here, wouldn't it? And then, especially you have like, what is it, OSHA or whatever, all these things that like are already in place. But even from that, like it's easier for you to keep tabs as opposed to, overseas. It's like, they tell you like, oh no, look, they get breaks and like, oh, we give them water whenever they want. Maybe.
I mean, and they also get paid by piece a lot of the times, where the factory I work with they're paid hourly.
Oh, really?
Which is rare actually, but I went out of my way to find one that did that. And it's just, I don't know. It's like, I feel really frustrated with like these like, oh God, I'm going to get in trouble for this, for like really far left people who say things like, who say things like, oh, unions this and free trade is terrible that, but then they're literally constantly buying shit from Amazon. Or it's like, if you really believe that, then why aren't you like shopping more small businesses? If that's too expensive for you, well, that's a problem. But that's just like, you have to make that decision for yourself. It's like, maybe you could stop buying some Steam games. I don't know. Like, so.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of that at least in my circle, it's like, it's a lot younger, people that are younger. And so that stuff that used to kind of, it used to frustrate me. I'm like, don't you get it? Like, look what you're doing. And I realized that back when you were saying that you were protesting, when you were young, I'm like, you know what? That's kind of like their job, is to be idealistic and point out all the failures of the planet and how we fucked everything up. And because I think everybody means well. Everything, everybody means well. And even though it seems annoying, I feel that it does get us a little bit closer. Just it progresses a little bit. Obviously, not going that far out, but just them bringing that up does make it a little bit better, as annoying as it is sometimes.
I agree. I usually never say anything about it because, again, I don't know why they're shopping at Amazon. There's a million reasons, so I'm not going to assume.
It's super convenient.
Yeah, it is super convenient. Like, I love it. Yeah, I try not to. I try to pick that Amazon day, so I feel slightly better about myself. But they also have climate pledges now. Like, you can buy only, like, climate-friendly things on Amazon now.
So annoying.
Sustainability is so hot.
But I feel like all that shit is so like, because I don't know.
Well, it is. Most of it is like a scam. Like, there's no way to prove anything. Like, and I try really hard to be as transparent about my supply chain as possible. But at the end of the day, if this cotton mill is getting cotton from Xinjiang province in China, like I am, by like 6 degrees of separation supporting like like internment camps in China. It's like, there's only so much you can do. It's really hard.
I always found it really interesting when like the example would be let's say Riot, for instance, and it's like, oh, I want to do like, oh, can you see, like, you're doing this and that, but it's like, oh, like, look who owns like the company that you work for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, you're not absolved of everything as well.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I get like
the world's it's a very complicated place, and it's so exhausting to try to be perfect.
Exactly. And I feel like people could be a little more compassionate to people they might not necessarily agree with. Like, I'll know people who get really upset about something and they're like, why doesn't this person just quit? And it's like, well, why don't you just quit? Like, you like your job. You don't want to just quit because it's owned by a Chinese company. They don't want to quit just because it's owned by Rupert Murdoch. I don't know.
Yeah, I always found it interesting. It's how people
justify, like...
Yeah, like, because it's like, for me, I'm part of that generation. I don't mean not even generation, but where you knew like the world is complicated, and yes, your company might be sponsored by Shell Oil and it's oil, and everything that goes along with that. But you're like, you know what? I get a paycheck. It's a great job. They treat me well. This is a cool gig. That's on them.
Right.
But for people that are just like so passionate about it, then how do you justify like staying there?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, honestly, it's weird because everything has a consequence to it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't believe that there's anything that's like inherently just good and can only be good and doesn't doesn't hurt anyone. My God, doesn't hurt anyone else.
I thought it was one of those anime things.
Yeah, no. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. All I can say is just like the world is complicated, and I think I think part of that is like, I just have like a diplomatic nature. Mm-hmm. Also working at the UN from when I did, like, I worked in the political section. So there's a lot of nuclear disarmament, a lot of like terrorism, a lot of stuff in the Middle East. These are things that Japan is interested in. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what you saw on TV sometimes when they would talk about these things is only like a tip of the iceberg. There's a reason why they couldn't do XYZ that the talking heads would scream about.
Yeah.
And, the morons on Facebook who think they know everything. There's just like this entire huge thing you don't know about. Mm-hmm. So I assume that for everything. Like, everyone's got a story. This company's got something I don't know. So I just kind of try not to make as many judgments as I can, as long as it's not about like books or music or movies, and I will judge.
I think that's really cool that you think about that stuff. Like I said, because it would be very easy for you to start out and then just want to do it the easy way. And I think, at least just like from what I've seen that you have, it's like it shows, like the quality shows. Thank you. And what's your plan with the clothing line? Is it because I know the cardigan is unisex.
Yeah.
Is that what you plan to do, or you plan to?
I that was something it actually happened accidentally. I planned it to be unisex, but I actually had no idea how flexible it would actually be until we started like product testing it, basically. Mm-hmm. But I think like my dream is to do like, very Janelle high fashion goth things that are kind of edgy but delicate. So that's probably like what I'd like to do in the future. But I mean, honestly, I have no aspirations of becoming like Gucci or some big brand. Like,
is this a revenge?
Is this a revenge thing? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is probably a revenge thing.
It's like Mom.
Yeah. No, it's not Mom. Now this is other people. Now I've got other people that I want like my revenge on.
Well, I mean, it's a good. I mean, it drives people.
Yeah,
you know
I mean, you know,
whatever
like
gets you
that,
going.
You know, that random art director was like, oh, I'd love to see where that goes. Or, you know, somebody else who's like, oh, this will never sell. Like, those are things I heard like recently. And I'm just like, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you.
So, like, you know, I was gonna say, pretend, you know, you're talking to yourself like when you're a kid, right, about this. Like, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I think I would probably tell myself, I don't know. To be honest, I don't think I would do anything differently because I kind of think the person I am now is like the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
I had to go through all of that to get where I am now. Sometimes I think, you know, if I had just stayed in New York, I could probably be VP of marketing somewhere. And, you know, I get that voice in my head that's like, you're a failure. You're not a VP of marketing anywhere. It's like, I could literally call myself VP of marketing because I own my own company.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever. But I honestly don't think I would change anything or tell myself anything. And to be honest, if I had a time machine and went back and told myself anything, I wouldn't believe myself. I'd be like, whatever, I'll show you.
Why did you feel, because I think I saw it on one of your Facebook posts,
one of my many Facebook posts,
where you felt weird about calling yourself a designer, fashion designer.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I would call it imposter syndrome because
Sounds like it.
Well, I don't know because I feel like something I don't lack is self-confidence. I don't
think you lack self-confidence.
Yeah, so I don't think it's that. I just think that part of my personality, and it's kind of how I was raised, is like things have to be bestowed on you. Like people have to acknowledge you.
Like somebody else would have to call you that before you call yourself that?
I can't call myself that, yeah. And
interesting.
like when we were talking about Riot and feeling appreciated, like I am like basically unable to congratulate myself or celebrate things. Like for my birthday, Chad got me this obscenely expensive luggage that I've wanted my entire life. And I was like, oh my God, why did you do this? Like, this is so expensive. I could have bought this myself. And he was just like, you launched a company, you did this, and you still haven't bought it for yourself. So I think you should celebrate.
That is super important, you know, and that's one thing that I feel just as people normally, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. And it's not about, you know, being conceited or anything like that, but it's really about taking a little breather and then realizing like, holy shit, like this is not normal.
Yeah,
everything that I've done.
Something
you know?
that somebody Jules said to me, do you know Jules? Yeah. So she was just like, you know, when I think of you, I think of a car going at like 80 miles an hour trying to get to a destination, and not only have they like gone on all these, but they still got there on time.
Yeah.
She's like, but you still need to look in the rearview mirror sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, see what's going on, see what you've passed. Like those are important things to do as well.
And that's really cool that you have a partner that like acknowledges that, you know, because sometimes you do need somebody else to kind of like rein you in and be like, hey, take a little breather and like, you know.
Yeah, you did this thing. Like, you are allowed to be happy about that. Because I feel like everything I've done, I've just been like, I can't believe I couldn't hack it in the UN. I can't believe I didn't do this thing. I can't, like, every success I've ever had, I've always just been like, oh, but I didn't 100% it, so I'm terrible. So what's the next thing I can fail at? It's just like, I know it sounds super negative, but like, again, I was like a goth teenager. This is I might have changed the way I look. I might listen to different music sometimes now, but like nothing has changed. I have the cold, dark heart of an emo teenager.
I was gonna tell you, you have some time. Do you have some time?
What time is it?
4:30.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Let's get a refill.
Okay.
And then, because there's so much more I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah.
Right. And we're back.
Hello.
Cheers, by the way.
Oh yes. Thank you.
Clink.
I love that I got like this is like a $15 old fashioned for for free. Thank you. This is really good. This is better than a lot of bars old fashions.
I used to bartend for a good while.
There you go. So this is a real bar then.
So yeah.
Well, I watched you like blowtorch the
yeah.
I was like, okay, that's legit. Because sometimes they don't even bother with that. They're just like really janky place will just put like an orange in it. I'm like, this is not an old fashioned. What is this? I am offended.
one of the things that I think I had told you already, maybe, I don't know, is that you're one of my favorite people that I hardly hang out with. But now that you told me that you're like kind of like lived on the internet, I don't feel so bad for it anymore, because it's like, oh, like we're internet friends.
Yeah, no, it's something I'm used to. Like my best friend I met when he was 12 and I was 14 on IRC because he liked my Sailor Moon fan fiction, and he's currently my best friend. He's been
Sailor Moon fan fiction.
He's been my my man of honor at the 2 times I was married, and like.
Wait, you were married before?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah. People are always like surprised by that. But.
Yeah. You know, because one, you're so young. Right?
I'm like 40.
Yeah. No, it's young. For 2 marriages, that's pretty young.
No, I don't know.
I mean, we're not comparing it to like Elizabeth Taylor, where she's like on husband number 6 right now at your age. But, well, especially now with like people getting married later.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Well, so my first marriage was when I was 28. And
okay.
Yeah, and he was Australian, and to be honest,
is it the?
No, it was a different Australian. For some
have
reason,
a type.
I like Australians, I guess. But we got married for his visa, but we didn't have to have the wedding. You know, so we also had like this crazy.
Did they pay you for it?
No, because we like I.
Oh, you actually
sincerely were in love with him when we got married. When we had the wedding, by then, like I legitimately thought at one point, like, well, if we got divorced, I would only be 30, and like that's a terrible thing to think before your wedding. Like, cause like you're already married, fine, but like you don't need to have the expensive thing with the dress. But you know, I had that classic sunk cost fallacy where it was like, oh, well, I can't cancel now. We've spent too much money.
Serious?
Yeah, but
I mean, that's part of it. It's like, oh, like one of my friends, it's so hard because, you know, when you splurge like that, because, you know, they spend so much money and like, I mean, they had they had an MC for the wedding, you know,
wow.
And like 3 years later,
yeah,
they had to call it quits.
Well, for us, it was like, 2 years later, but it was.
Was it one of those things that you got married like right away, or had you guys been together for a while?
I was with him for 8 total years.
Wow. Oh, okay.
We got married after 5 years, and then we.
Do you mind me asking what happened, or?
You know, honestly, I think we were just better friends. There was just like, after the like early, you know, everyone's horny, lustful phase, there was just like no chemistry basically. And I didn't like what he liked. He didn't like what I liked.
Yeah.
It was just like, I felt like he never challenged me, I guess.
Challenged you in like what sense?
In any sense.
Because you know what's so funny is like there's, like I have girlfriends that, you know, they you know, it's like, it's not that they like assholes or any, like per se, you know what I mean? But they also don't, and you know, they do like guys that are nice, but they also don't like guys that they feel they can run over.
Yes. So I think I have a very domineering personality, a very strong personality, and I that's just who I am. It's always who I've been. I was like that when I was 2. My mom said once I started talking, I was kind of a nightmare because I was always asking crazy, like offensive questions in front of people. But
is God real?
Yeah. Why is that lady so short and fat? It's like,
yeah.
Shut up.
That's your grandma.
My daughter is stupid. Yeah. Don't listen to her. But like, yeah, I want a guy who can call me out on my shit, who's just like, who's nice and a gentleman, but is also like, okay, no, you are saying some crazy ass stuff right now, and that's not okay. And it's like, yeah, because when I was younger, I had like nerdy, you know, anime boyfriends, and
how's that?
I just ran all over them.
Yeah.
Like I could do anything, and like that's actually not fun. And it's not that it's not fun, it's not healthy. Like I felt like I was becoming like actually abusive or something.
I was gonna say, doesn't it start off kind of like fun, because then you can test it a little bit,
but then you're like,
but then when you realize like, oh no, now I feel bad because
it didn't feel good. I felt like, wait, I'm like completely controlling this person's life, and I'm not trying to, but they have no boundaries.
I wonder what it is about humans that like we kind of are like, ooh, like you get like this lust for that a little bit where you're like, huh, let me test it out. Let me see how much more I can push it.
I think like humans just want the most convenient, fun thing. And sometimes that's, if you're like a mild sociopath, that's fun. I'm sure there's people who would be like, no, I would never do that. And, you know, I've considered that I might be a mild sociopath. I don't know, but it's possible. So
this explains so much on why I love you online. It's like I get so entertained by so much of the shit that you post.
I think one of the best things about me is I like legitimately don't care what people think unless it's in a video game. Unless it's something competitive, then I get really salty. But if it's like anything else, I just don't care. And it's like partially, I think I over-index on trying to be empathetic and compassionate because I don't think I'm not really joking when I say I might be a mild sociopath because I just don't care.
How do you teach that to somebody? Because I feel right now so many people care about that stuff.
I think I have no idea because I don't know, but I think because I'm actively trying to be empathetic and compassionate, I just, you know, they say stuff like put yourself in their shoes, and I don't think that's the right way of doing it because you're still putting yourself in their shoes. So what you have to do is like look through that person's eyes in their shoes. You can't be yourself in somebody else's situation because you're still you. Like you have to imagine yourself as that person. And so that's what I try to do. It's like anytime I hear something I think is absolutely insane, I'm just like, okay, where are they coming from? And like, you know, it's possible they're just a complete idiot, but you know, maybe they're onto something. I don't know. That's possible.
Seeing how you're a child of the internet, one thing that you must have been into are conspiracy theories.
Yes. Oh my God.
Now, what is your favorite one?
Oh God, there's so many.
Because I remember you saying like, "Oh man, I go deep like into that the Reddit."
Real deep. So I lurk on Reddit. Like people are always like, "Oh, wait, this is your first post in 11 years. Way to go, bot." And I'm like, I just don't. It's a pressure.
It's fun to lurk.
Well, and it's like pressure too. If you haven't posted for 9 years, you can't have your first like comment be on some dude's dick pic being like nice. Like you have to be like, oh, I better find something really like cool. So my first comment in 6 years can be something really awesome. But I was on conspiracy for a really long time until it started becoming like just basically bots and. The
bots, really?
Yeah, it's all bots now. Like I used to be on it so much that I could see when they would come on, because like
like you see patterns.
Yeah,
and things like that?
So this was not now, but this was like 2017 through maybe 2019, 2018 or so, like 16 to like a 2-year period. I would go on there every day, multiple times a day, and like during the US hours, it was a lot of like aliens and funny stuff. And then right when it turned like 9 a.m. in like Russia, it started becoming like the Jews this, black people that, pedophiles this, and it's like clearly disinformation bots, and that's all they are. And then they would stop. And then it was just like so obvious that these were bots, and it's like on every single Reddit, and it's just like kind of frustrating because we know these bots exist, or these like troll farms or what have you. We've known about this for years, and everyone forgets about it. And like we know Russia, there's like evidence that Russia created all these fake Black Lives Matter Facebook groups for the sole purpose of like riling Americans up, because both Russia and China in their intelligence like handbooks / influential books in those circles, they have things like Americans are very sensitive about race, so make sure
I feel like they found the crack. They found the crack, right?
And the thing is, we're sensitive about race because we have we have real things to be sensitive about. But they know that that's the sword to like stick the finger in, and it works every single time.
Every single time.
And it's just like, oh God, and I get sucked into it too, even when I know I'm like, this is clearly a bot post. However, I will respond to it.
It's interesting that like growing up, the conspiracies was obviously like JFK.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
Bigfoot, Roswell,
aliens, and you know, those are the classics, right? And then I feel that we kind of like were just on those for a good while, and then 9/11 happened, and then that kind of like started it kind of resurged the conspiracy.
Right. I mean, I think for me, the conspiracies I like the most are the ones that are so insane that if they were true, wouldn't that be cool? Like aliens. Or my new favorite one is it's called the cultural layer.
Oh, what's that?
It's most of the people who believe in it are in Russia.
Okay.
But apparently 80% of the population believes in it to some degree, because the guy who wrote the book on it was like very influential. He wrote this like 10-volume tome on Russian history, I guess. And the hypothesis is that the West invented about 500 years of history in order to make Russia look bad. So like the Dark Ages, the medieval time, none of that happened. It went from Roman period to like now, basically.
Okay.
And so like there's like, 900 years of fake history, and like actually everything from like, 0 AD to 1700 was fake. And it's like, wait, what? That's absolutely insane.
And so what do they say to back that up?
So they'll be like,
it's like, what are the examples?
Look at this demolition they're doing in Paris. Look at all these layers of cities below. It must be older, or they must have just bulldozed this recently, or like, look at these artifacts. These aren't real artifacts. These look, they had light bulbs in ancient Baghdad. It must be. So it's just all sorts of hodgepodges of like other conspiracies. But I just think it's amazing that apparently 80% of a population believes that we invented time.
Really?
Like, there's a crazy ruse.
By like 80% of the world population?
Oh no, Russia's.
Oh, okay, okay.
Apparently believes in this to some degree.
Now, you know what's also interesting though is that when you go back at the older ones, and now you're starting to see them like resurface, and with the government saying like, oh yeah, there are unidentified flying objects. It's like whatever.
Well, the thing with a conspiracy is that it isn't necessarily that it means it's false, right? It's just that like some greater power is hiding something,
right?
The truth, and sometimes things that are conspiracies actually turn out to be real. Like the Iran-Contra was a conspiracy until it turned out that we really were selling weapons to Iran.
And then, so back to saying like, 9/11 kind of like, it was like the rebirth of like this conspiracy. And then like, I feel Alex Jones kind of came out of that, right?
Yeah.
Where he took that and ran with it. And like I was saying, it's just really weird to start seeing like, and this is my problem with Q as well, where it's like, yeah, you're batshit crazy, but not completely.
Yeah.
Because some of this stuff is kind of happening.
Exactly.
And you even see Alex Jones like, these politicians, they're fucking diddling with kids and all
well,
that.
that's true.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, 6 years later, 7 years later, it's
Yeah.
like now you start seeing this stuff. So that's why it's easy to dismiss conspiracy theories, but also it's hard to dismiss them because there seems to always be some sort of element of truth to them.
Right, like the Epstein stuff. That was on the conspiracy subreddit for years.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, whatever. Like, this is a guy who got arrested once. He's been let go. The justice system found him,
They obviously they obviously must have more evidence than what I'm seeing.
And I was wrong, completely wrong. So, maybe he really was having
So what is your take on the Epstein thing?
Well, he didn't commit suicide, and I don't know, he's a really gross, crazy person.
Isn't it weird though how, going back to the whole like, oh, like why are people so like, adamant about this and like got to fight for that, and then for something that's so obvious, like he didn't kill himself, we're just like, oh yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I could believe the official story on it, but the evidence here doesn't make all that much sense to me. So, I mean, he probably didn't kill himself.
Could you pay like a freaking a jail cop, from there so that they can just go on break?
Yeah, And then the cameras don't work for some reason, and like a million other things. And it's just like, I understand the desire to not be labeled a conspiracy theorist and not have people think you're crazy. But at the same time, like, it's not like the government has never lied about anything.
Right.
They lie about stuff all the time, like weapons of mass destruction, for example. Like, and like that's something that I knew wasn't a thing because, you know, that was literally my thing I was studying at the time, and we all knew we were lying about it, but everyone was cool with it.
So one of the theories is that Epstein actually was an operative. Right.
I've heard this.
And that pretty much they used him to bring in these high profile people so that
they could blackmail them.
They could blackmail them in case of anything. And that goes back to the, what was the CIA director? Or wait, or was the FBI director, cross-dresser?
Oh, Hoover?
Yeah, Hoover, right? That was like one of his tactics.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing. And like, I remember hearing this conspiracy because it's all about, I believe her name is Ghislaine. I think that's how you
Ghislaine Maxwell?
No, I think it's actually pronounced
Ghislaine,
but something like
She's
that.
English, right? Sounds French.
Yeah, but the theory is linked to her father.
One thing I've learned about you is that you like to pronounce shit like the way it's supposed to.
I try.
Epstein.
Epstein?
Yeah.
Epstein? I don't actually know. How do you pronounce it?
I pronounce it Epstein. Just only because that's what I hear.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if like his mother called him that.
Yeah, I think I try without being super pretentious about it, but I try. But yeah.
Well, that's one of your things now that you're a fashion designer. You're allowed to.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you're not pretentious, then what are you doing in here?
I'm like. I am a self-avowed pretentious snob. Like, I try to be as compassionate of a snob as I can be.
Yeah.
But I think snobbery is about, like, taste on things that are kind of subjective, whereas, like, something like somebody's life situation or income situation, that's kind of more objective. And so I try to be compassionate that people have different ways of living. But, you know, if you have bad taste, I'm going to have to
I was going to say, that's one of the worst things you can tell somebody.
That they have bad taste?
Yeah.
No,
Whether it be like, oh, you have bad taste in music.
People get really offended by that. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have bad taste. And they're like, what makes you the arbiter of taste? I'm like, I don't know. I've sold like $1 billion of stuff based on my taste.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I don't know. But yeah, I no, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Like,
but yeah, him being a CIA operative to blackmail these people. And then the thing is that like, hey, so he got caught up. It's all kind of being exposed. So you know what? We need to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that makes sense. Whether or not he's CIA, I don't know. He could just be a dude who was collecting blackmail evidence so that he could have very rich people and powerful people in his pocket. Because it sounds like he was a real weird dude.
Well, I mean, you know what is weird to me is that how he got his money.
Yeah,
you know,
just kind of
because I forget his name, the dude founder of Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, bought him an apartment?
No, he gave him the house in Manhattan.
Oh, that's how that was.
Yeah,
he just gave him
to him because the way that that plays out is that Jeffrey Epstein was like, oh, you know, like I know how to manage money and all this stuff, and when he worked for him, even though now it's like, oh no, he was never actually in the payroll, but everybody at the company was like, oh no, Jeffrey Epstein or Epstein, whatever, used to come in all the time. And so because he manages his money, then he was like, oh, you know what? Here you go. Here, have the most expensive mansion in Manhattan.
Yeah, that's weird. Like, that's actually just weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, how, like, in any other case, no one would ignore that. That's bizarre. Like, people don't just give up multi-million-dollar apartments to somebody they're friends with. Like, that's weird. And also, if I recall correctly, he was like a teacher before.
Yeah.
How did he become a hedge fund manager? I mean, that happens,
yeah.
But he was not known as being wealthy before that.
Right. He was not known as being wealthy. And then the teacher thing, he seemed to just talk his way into that. You know,
happens.
I mean, I guess it does happen. But when you just see the trajectory, either he's like a master manipulator,
which is possible,
or there's something behind it,
or he was used by someone in order to further his goals. Yeah.
And then the other thing too is that we're gonna call her Ghislaine. Bringing her on board just opened up all these doors to, because her dad, because she's rich, her dad, I think he was a newspaper guy.
Doesn't he have ties to Mossad? That's on the internet.
Yes. He has ties to Mossad. And then he mysteriously falls off a boat and dies.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
The thing that's crazy to me is when people hear this Epstein stuff, they're just like, oh, that's a conspiracy. There's no way that's possible. But we literally know that we have secret agents. We know that the NSA is spying on people. Like, we know all of these things happen. But for some reason, this is impossible.
Going back to conspiracy theories, think about all, a long time ago, it's like, oh, they're spying on you and all this stuff. It's like, no, they're not. And then all of a sudden you find out they are.
No, they really are. Yeah.
And so then the new thing, I want to get your thoughts on it. It's a Bill Gates thing.
Oh,
So
which one? There's a lot.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Bill Gates in 2020 was trending every month, right? So, they recently got divorced, and it's come to light that this isn't something new, that they actually have been talking about this for a couple years now, for about 2 years, in that she had concerns about Bill's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and that she vocalized that to the lawyer 2 years ago. And, at least for me, I'm like, oh, you know what? Rich dude, obviously, Epstein was targeting these scientists from MIT, and it doesn't.
It's not that weird.
Yeah, I don't find it weird, the fact that he would go to Bill Gates. He's a philanthropist.
I would try to go to Bill Gates, yeah.
Yeah, and Epstein was trying to do that stuff, right? Trying to work with philanthropy. So that's not weird to me. Also the same thing, oh, if you have a picture with him, all of a sudden, you're in that, exactly, no, it's like you go to a party and it's like, if Elon Musk is there, I'm sure Epstein's going to try to get a picture with him. So that didn't concern me, but then you start finding out all these weird things about Bill Gates. Apparently they had this arrangement where he could meet up, I think, once a year with an old girlfriend, and they'd go to a private island and just hang out, play games. Whatever, right?
People have...
Look, I feel people that rich probably live a completely different life than we even know, right?
Honestly, I know some people who live kind of like that and they're not that rich. I just there's a lot of different, if they have an agreement, who am I to, judge? But that's unusual.
And apparently, also, I guess when he was at Microsoft, he'd, write a little email, to somebody he liked, and was like, hey, how about I take you out to dinner?
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
That's shady.
Yeah.
I mean...
But what I'm saying is that, the reason why I didn't think, any of that stuff would happen is because of my perception of Bill Gates, which was, the Microsoft guy, and then,
became a philanthropist.
Became a philanthropist, and he was, trying to stop, all these diseases in third world countries. I'm like, no, he's, a good dude. But then you start seeing, all these things come out, and the link to Epstein, and then also with the COVID vaccine, where they were asking him about releasing the patent to public or to other countries, and he was like, I'm not sure that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But this is the philanthropist. This is the guy that's trying to, stop polio in all the countries. All of a sudden, you don't want to give the COVID vaccine.
Yeah. So this is a classic Janelle answer, but because I don't know that much about it, I have to read up on it and, to be able to form an opinion.
Look into it, because it starts getting murkier and murkier.
Because I've seen Bill Gates stuff here and there, but I'm old enough to remember when everyone hated him. When he was the just weird Windows, Microsoft.
Yeah, like his browser's on everything and da 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 da. Like he's just trying to take over the world. Yeah,
it's just this weird looking nerd dude. And since then, I've known about his philanthropy, the fact that he's always focused on diseases that are not sexy, and things, solutions that aren't sexy. Like he made like millions of mosquito nets for malaria, because that's actually the cheapest way to fight malaria, and not, drugs and whatever. So, I have that in my head of the most recent stuff. So I think there's a natural bias that when I hear things to be like, is that true? Oh, I don't know. He's a nice guy. So it's like, I have to look this up. I have to look at this stuff. I had heard he had cheated on his wife though.
Speaking
which is shocking.
About nets. I know, because you don't picture him like, hey, what's up, girl?
Well, but he's rich, so there's always some.
He probably doesn't have to do anything.
There's some. I don't want to say. There's a nice lady out there who will look for a rich married man.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't want to say the word hoe, but.
I thought you were just gonna say Ashley Madison.
Oh, is that still a thing?
I don't know. Probably not.
I mean, I remember when that was a thing.
It's weird. Have you seen? It's on Netflix. It's called Seaspiracy.
I haven't watched that yet. People told me not to watch it.
I'm sure it's because like they do have like some whales being killed, which sucks, right? It's gross, or dolphins. But it's about plastics in the ocean, and how pretty much what we're told is like, hey, like don't cut up your little things, and because they eventually go to the ocean and like, hey, let's do away with straws because like the turtles get that shit in them. But the main reason why there's so many plastics and so, is because of the fishing nets.
Yes. Yeah.
That's actually like 90% of the problem, because once they fish, they just leave them there.
Yeah. Makes sense. And they're like a mile long.
Yeah. And so that was pretty crazy to me, because they showed this part where, it's companies that are like, oh, we're like sustainable. And like, we're, these are the reasons why, like, we need to stop, using straws and all this and all that. But they don't mention that 90% of the plastics out there are from nets from fishing. Yeah. Why? Because those companies are actually underneath those companies.
I mean, it totally makes sense. It's like global warming, for example. Like I have family and friends who don't think it's real, and it's like, okay, you don't want to believe the government, you don't want to believe Obama, you don't want to believe scientists. That's fine, whatever. But like, you should look at what the militaries around the world are doing, because they are all preparing for an ice-free Arctic, because that would be crazy for shipping, for oil. Like Russia and the U.S. both have plans for who owns what part of the Arctic Circle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like Shell and BP and all those oil companies are like trying to figure out like oil rights there, and it's like, you should look at what they're doing, because that'll tell you what the truth is. So like, follow the money, basically, which is classic conspiracy talk.
I can't wait to see the Nazi bunkers once that ice melts.
Oh, right? The Nazi bunkers on the Arctic? Or is it the Antarctic?
Oh, I don't know what
I don't think the
Antarctic. Wait, which is the top?
Bottom.
Oh, okay.
No, the Arctic's on the top.
Gotcha.
The Arctic is like just an ice cap, where Antarctica's got like land underneath.
Oh, gotcha.
Which is where the secret aliens live or whatever.
Okay, because I remember seeing that like that's where Hitler went.
Oh, Hitler ran off to one of those poles and dug an ice cavern or something?
Yeah, was kicking it there for a while.
Well, so there's a true belief that Antarctica is either the entrance to Hollow Earth, or that there's like some ancient race of whatever under the glaciers.
It is pretty cool and pretty crazy that we actually don't know
what the center of the Earth is.
Like what's there, like in
in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also like underwater.
Yeah.
These fucking Nazis, these NASA pussies, like they go to space. No, go to fucking the ocean, okay?
One of my really good friends, so he's seen all that UFO footage, and he's like, look, you're the only person I could tell. I actually think they're coming from the sea. I'm like, like the Marianas Trench, like Cthulhu.
Why not?
And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Probably. I mean, we haven't been able to really we don't really know. Like
right.
we've like seen more of the moon than
That's what I'm saying.
There could be all sorts of creepy.
And also, did you see like the most recent UFO footage?
Which one is that? Is it the one from the fighter jets?
Not they're not from the fighter jets. It's the one they're like they're on a ship, and then it's in the water and it's just kind of like floating.
The thing that goes into the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. So like, I posted this thing on Facebook, and like, I know half of the people on my Facebook now think I'm batshit crazy, and that's okay. Low key, like not low key, high key. I think in like 5 years, the government's going to be like, we know extraterrestrials exist. We cannot communicate with them. They're too far away. We can never go to them, but we know they exist. And like, I think like that would be incredible. But I also know that like 95% of the world would either be like, I don't believe that, or I don't care.
I honestly thought that was going to come out last year because
I mean,
so much
not?
shit was going on that it's like, oh, UFOs. Okay. Bingo.
So
yeah.
In that COVID relief bill, that last one they in I think a 60, 90 or 180, one of those, 2, 3, 4 month periods, they have to release everything they know about UFOs.
No, I think it's coming up, right?
So excited. I'm like, it's like end of June. I'm like, oh my God, I want to know.
I partially have a theory that they didn't want to do it while Trump was in office.
Because no one would believe it?
No, because it's like Trump would be there and he would just be like,
fuck it up.
he was like, oh, I talked to them and, they love me as a president.
Oh my
they
God.
said I was the best president.
Of
And
all
they want
of all presidents.
of the whole galaxies. And they want me to be the ruler of the galaxies.
I mean, I could absolutely.
I know.
Yeah,
I could totally see him
happening.
doing that. So they were just like, nah, let's not give them the information yet. We'll wait for it.
There's an interview with Obama where he's like, nah, they wouldn't tell me.
They wouldn't tell me.
And it's like, whoa.
And then like you're gonna have Biden, and it's gonna be like, the aliens, and it's like, well, I don't believe that guy. That guy's probably like not. Yeah. He's dreaming or something.
Well, so one of the dudes who claims that there's a galactic federation is this 80-year-old man from Israel who used to be the like minister of their space department. Yes. It's like people are like, oh well, he's just senile. I'm like, okay.
No, because he said, hey, we've been in contact with them. Yeah. They like. We're good. It's just like
he's either telling the truth, he's a fucking liar, and I don't know why he would do that.
Why would you lie?
I don't know why he would do that to your reputation.
Yeah.
Or he's crazy, like he's senile, which is possible. But I really don't know if it's I'm just going to say crazy ass stuff that no one's going to believe because I want to destroy my legacy. Like no one does that.
It's going to be interesting though. But now the fact that like the government is just kind of like okay with now releasing videos, and they're not even trying to say like, oh, we don't really know, it's kind of grainy. They're like, no, that's a legit video.
Well, it's weird because like, on that Facebook post, there are people like, oh, look, these Reddit people have discovered that it's like, it's actually just bokeh, like lens flare, or, like fogginess. And it's like, okay, but like, do we really think that these like fighter pilots and like the Navy don't know what that is? Like I know what that is, and I barely know how to use a camera. Like there's like a bokeh mode on like my Pixel. Like
that.
Like it's camera artifacts.
Oh,
like, all
gotcha,
these things are like, oh, it's just there's like dust on the lens or something. It's like, so these dudes in like billion-dollar airplanes whose entire job is to shoot down like a terrorist from like 3 miles above the ground can't tell when dust is on their like monitor. Okay, like that doesn't make sense to me. So
because the newest one, the one that went out in the water, people were like, oh no, it could have been a weather balloon, and I'm like, wait, no, these are people that like, this is their job.
They know what this is. So I figure it's either America's got like black ops technology that they're not sharing with anyone, or some private citizen does, which would be really scary because then we literally have like Iron Man / Bond villain.
You think is Elon Musk fucking with people?
Or like Hank Scorpio from The Simpsons, like somebody who's just like, I've got a crazy machine. Or China, which is the only country who could feasibly have this, has absolutely leapfrogged us in technology, and we're just kind of fucked at this point, to be honest. Or it's aliens. Or I guess it could be like a very elaborate hoax in which the military decides to make themselves look weaker to our adversaries, which doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want other countries to think that we can't tell the difference between a UFO and like reconnaissance?
It doesn't make sense to me that the government would be releasing that stuff in
There's also another theory. The government wants us to think an alien thing is real so they can do other stuff with it. It's like conspiracy theories call that Operation Blue Light, I think.
See, the fact that the government's releasing that leads me to believe more stuff like that.
I mean,
it's like, is it one of those things like, hey, is it a false flag so that China's like, why are these things going over there? See, I don't live in China, so I don't know if like, you're like, oh, news at 11, this crazy freaking spaceship thing is like, flying over like Wuhan or whatever. I don't know if they get that kind of news. Or if it's like, hey, let's put this stuff like these aliens are visiting the U.S. So then China will be like, why are they visiting over there? Do they like them better?
Right.
Or is that, wait, there's no aliens. That must be what the U.S. has.
Or it could be, I think the simplest explanation on this one would be the government's like, look, there's aliens. We better beef up our defense contracts because now we need to like fight the aliens or some shit.
Damn you, Janelle. That's probably it. They want more funding.
Yeah, like Lockheed is just like, yo, because Harry Reid, former Senator Harry Reid from Nevada, was like, I've heard that Lockheed Martin has materials from the aliens. It's like, oh, really? Like, tell me more. Maybe I should invest in their stock.
Well, see this, out of all the things that, like, Joe Biden, has disbanded from like the Trump administration. You know which one wasn't one of them?
The
Space Force.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, Space Force is alive and well.
Yeah, it's and I remember everyone making fun of that, and I'm like, I mean, realistically, we should have one not because of aliens, but because
asteroids
that, and in the near future, space warfare might be a real thing. Like, because can you imagine? I can imagine a future where the collateral damage is satellites. Like, if you could knock out all of major American satellites, how would we get the news to know what's going on? Like, there's just like a lot of there's internet. Times. There's a lot of things. We need those satellites up there.
Don't you think though, if that happened, like our generations would be okay?
I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know if I can't drive without a GPS. Do you remember the Thomas guide?
Yes.
When I was a stupid like racer girl, I would be like, all right, we got to take the Thomas guide out because it's like 2 pounds and that's adding to my drag, man. Oh, it was such an embarrassing.
What did you drive?
Honda.
Please tell me like a Skyline.
No, it was a Honda Accord.
Okay.
But I did, when I lived in Japan, I forced myself to learn manual on Honda Integra because I just wanted one. I almost.
You still drive manual?
No.
I mean, do you still know, huh?
I do, but the thing is, I always wanted to drive. Like, I was always like, oh man, I can't like shift with my right hand. That's really weird. And so I got to drive on right hand side.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and it's like,
that's weird.
I actually can't. This hand is like my steering hand. I can't like not use this hand. So this was the hand to shift. It was great.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can actually drive one in the U.S.
You should give it a go. It's. I mean, if you can find one.
I mean, they're still around, but yeah, I wouldn't get one because Chad doesn't know how to drive manual. He doesn't like cars at all, so it's always the funny thing when people are like, "Oh, Chad's got a sick car." I'm like, "That's my Tesla. I got that. I'm the one who wanted that. He wanted a Prius. I said no."
Speaking of Tesla, do you know about like Neuralink about that program?
I watched that. The thing they did with the pig, demo. I was like, "What the heck?" It was weird.
It's a slippery slope.
It is. Like I said before, I'm kind of here for it. I'm just kind of over. I'm over.
Over what?
Over humanity right now. Just let me like plug in with Neuralink or whatever.
Yeah.
Go into my little matrix world and I can invent whatever I want. Like, it would be like if it was lucid dreaming, kind of like I could control what was happening. It would be so
Are you able to do that?
I used to be able to do that. Here's this really true story. It's fucking ridiculous. I used to be able to lucid dream very, like, completely. And then one day I had this really scary nightmare where I was being chased in this mall parking lot. And I was like, this is a dream. Janelle, wake up. This is a dream. This is a dream. And this old homeless man pushing a cart turns to me and he goes, this is not a dream. And I have not been able to lucid dream since then. I'm serious. That is dead serious. So conspiracies, basically. So aliens. But yeah, I used to be able to. It was pretty It's pretty amazing.
I do that pretty often.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But you know what's really weird for me, or like when I think about it when I'm conscious, it's because when I do lucid dream, it's I know the city. I have my favorite bars there. I have favorite restaurants that I go there. I have a whole set of different friends that don't exist here.
Right.
And every single time, like I dream there and I go to the bar or go see one of my friends, they're like, "Oh my God, it's been so long, man. Good seeing you." Yeah, dude. And they're like, "Let me call like Rebecca." And like, she's going to be so excited that you're back. And it just feels like I'm living like a whole different life in there. And then I wake up and I completely can remember absolutely everything.
I have dreams and lucid dreams that feel so real, and I remember every detail of it, and it's kind of weird. And so like part of my like, I don't know, I'm really open to things that I don't know, because I think, like people in the 1700s didn't know that germs were a thing. They didn't believe in germ theory. They didn't know bacteria and viruses were a thing. There is a lot of stuff about the universe that we don't know. Mm-hmm. It's like, physicists say there's 4 dimensions. Some believe there's 11 or more or infinite. And if that's true, then there's like all sorts of stuff that I don't understand at all. So I'm open to the possibility that ghosts are just like an image from like the 4th dimension or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So it's how I am with God too. I don't really know. So I'm just going to hedge my bets. I'm going to either be offensive to all of them or inoffensive to all. Either respect or disrespect equally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I sometimes think that too. Because there's so many stories out there, so many accounts of like ghosts. And I know your mind can play certain, different tricks on you and like in the dark and all this and all that. But there just seems to be so many that's a good explanation for me.
Yeah, it's like, and it doesn't even have to be this like, oh, it's a being. Like
it's energy.
Yeah, or like a memory, like a shadow, basically. Like if there is a 4th dimension there is a 4th dimension of time. Then I don't know, maybe a ghost is just like the after, like like a burned in image on on like a old computer monitor.
Yeah,
of something that happened like 200 years ago.
I always think to myself, and this like kind of like morbid thought that like let's say like this house, like if I died here, for sure I want to haunt it.
Yeah,
this is like a cool house.
No, I mean, I'm like, being a ghost seems pretty cool. If that's a thing, if ghosts are real, then it like proves that an afterlife is real to some degree. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's conscious or if it's just like you're just replaying. No, because a lot of the ghost stories is like you're trying to interact with somebody too.
Right. That's the ghost story. So, but that's why I think like if ghosts were real, it seems like it would be more likely some... Like scientifically, it's just some burned-in image that is from another dimension or whatever. Which are already everything I'm saying sounds like insane high person talk. I just think that like you can entertain an idea without actually believing in it.
All right, so I know you got to run. So last conspiracy theory.
Oh God.
Now that Trump is out of office, a lot of people are more open to having conversations about COVID and what happened, including Fauci and other people. And one of the biggest conspiracy theories online in 2020 was about COVID have been created in a lab.
Yeah.
In Wuhan. And, last year, because there was so much disinformation about COVID, those would get taken down, stuff like that. But like I said, now we're kind of like past the hump, so people are more open to talk about that. What do you think?
So, I actually, the very first post I did about COVID was actually in early January, because I still follow international news, especially business news, and it was just
you are better than us.
Well, it was just like a blip, like oh, the mystery flu kills blah in China, and then I saw one in Thailand. It was like mystery Chinese flu kills X in Thailand, and I was like, huh, that's weird. I just kind of ignored it.
This is around when?
Mid-January.
Okay.
I ignored it, and I was in India when they shut down.
That's right.
Yeah, they shut down Wuhan. I was like, oh, that's a big deal. I was like, you don't shut down an area of 15 million people for the lulz. Like, this is a thing that they are scared of, and it's like, for me, I've always kind of distrusted authority, and so it's like I never listen to what anyone says. It's like, what are they actually doing?
Yeah.
And so you had like, they're shutting down Wuhan. That's weird. And then, you know, when I would hear earnings reports from, you know, the market, stock market, everyone was like, oh, we missed earnings because our factories were shut down. It's like, factories were shut down, but we're being told that it's no big deal. I'm like, well, that's going to affect the U.S. a lot. Even if it doesn't come here, that's going to screw up our supply chain. So I was just like, I started going in deep, and I was like, well, you know, the Wuhan thing is weird. I don't know if it's been created, but it's possible that it escaped from there because the doctor, I think her name is Dr. Shi, she worked at the Wuhan Viral Institute, I believe is what it's called. She specializes in bat diseases. She said in the past they might one day, like, you know, spread around, and like it just so happens that it kind of came out of Wuhan. Like, there's conspiracy theories that this woman was the one who like planted it. I don't believe that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's like crazy conspiracy theories of like, look, there's footage of a woman with black hair putting like a thing down in this market. It's like, here's a woman with black hair in China. Seriously, dude? In a fish market, she's putting down a cooler? Real weird. But like, you know, it's entirely possible that it could have escaped. And if it did, would anyone, like, if the U.S. accidentally let something escape, would we ever like admit to that? We would never would. And like, it makes sense.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if this is going to be one of those, like, you know, take like 50 years down the line, like a Chernobyl thing, where like we go back and like, hey, these are the things that actually kind of led to this. Because it is pretty weird that, because remember, like really soon into it, where the doctor that broke it out and saying, hey, this thing's happening, and he died.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It is weird. And like, he didn't die of COVID either. It was just like, oh, and like the fact that they were, because I was in early. I remember just people being like, you know, my like people I know, not just randoms on the internet, being like, my cousin is a doctor in China and they're saying we should stock up on N95 masks. And like part of the reason I had N95 masks is because I bought them early, like in January. And I saw on Reddit, somebody was like, my job, I sell things like N95 masks. He's like, I usually sell maybe 1,000 a year. He's like, I sold 3,000 in a week. Something, and they're all going to China. Something weird is happening.
You know what's weird? So I have a tea plug in Beijing. It's this lady that I met like when I went on a trip over there, and she hit me up on WeChat, and I was like, "Hey, is everything okay over there?" And she's like, "No, it's not." She's like, "You guys need to take precautions because this thing is spreading." And that's when, like, you know, like month one.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a person in China telling me this is crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, 15% of my friends are going to die.
Yeah.
You know, I'm probably not going to, you know what I mean? Like, I was like Black Plague type shit. And so I took precautions as well.
Yeah.
And what was crazy to me is that, is kind of like our reaction to it, which was, it felt like it was really serious. And then, like, you know, when they were, you know, thinking about like closing down and all that stuff, it's like initially Disneyland was allowed to stay open. And I'm like, oh, okay, wait, is it that serious? Because a shitload of people go to Disneyland. And I'm thinking, like, if this is like Ebola or something like that, that's terrible. But Disneyland themselves said, hey, we're actually not going to stay open. Right. And what was also weird was that, at least from what she was telling me versus what we were getting here, it felt different.
Well, there's different variants. I think I mean, somebody would need to fact check this, but I think we have the U.S. got the like Italian variant and not like a Chinese variant, which was different. So like, and it also depended on what region of the country you were in. But like India now has this crazy COVID rate, and their variant is now in the UK, and I'm positive it's here too, but we don't. We still don't actually like test where these variants are from. Yeah. So it's probably here and just don't know. And like, hopefully these vaccines work against all variants. Because they're actually crazy. Like the more I read about mRNA vaccines, I'm like, this could be the cure for cancer and AIDS in the future. And apparently they've been working on them since the 90s. But the reason they stopped is because the side effects were always like intense, like really, really bad. I had like terrible side effects.
Oh, did you?
Moderna one. Oh my God, it was.
But don't you say you kind of like run sick?
I do. I have like a weird, like I have mild like autoimmune issues, and but like I was like 104 fever for like 4 days. Like my entire arm was like
felt like it's gonna fall
off. No, it was shooting nerve pain, like searing pain, like all up and down my arm. It was just like it was crazy. But then,
hey, it's better than COVID.
It's true, I think. But then after, I don't really know. I've never had COVID. But after,
wait, didn't you check? Because I remember you saying like, I'm pretty sure I had COVID.
I'm pretty sure I had it by the time I checked it. Yeah. I didn't have antibodies for it.
You know, for me, I mean, and I love having this conversation now because, you know, if we would have this conversation last year, it's like, oh, you guys are Trumpers, you know, and all this shit. But back to the kind of conspiracy theories and stuff, and not even conspiracy theories about the governments and the crazy shit they do. And I've always believed it's like, hey, never let a crisis go to waste. Yeah. And I run that way, like distrust, you know, why? Because there's a history of all this stuff.
Why should we trust anyone?
Yeah. And why do you think like so many people, which I felt like we're all kind of on the same boat. Like, yeah, the government has been doing a whole bunch of crazy shit. Like, you know, even if, you know, like, let's say you're anti-Trump, he's part of the government. Yeah. You know, why do you think so many people were just so like gung-ho about it? Because I mean, I feel like friendships were broken, like.
Oh, you mean like
through the whole COVID thing?
Oh, like anti-maskers versus.
Yeah, every like whether you like look at this doctor, he's saying like it's not really that serious, and
I think for most Americans right now, we have not. Well, actually, all like most Americans, period, have never experienced existential dread of like. This could destroy our lives. It's like even during World War II, that wasn't fought here.
That's true.
And that wasn't fought here. Like very few wars since the Civil War were fought here. Like the War of 1812, no one really talks about that anyways. So I think for almost like everyone.
Oh, you have different circle of friends. Yeah. Me and my friends talk about War of 1812 all the time.
Oh, wow, you guys. Spanish-American War. I know all about it. But I think this was the first thing where it's like something foreign is attacking our shores, and it was just like a fight or flight response, I guess. And you know, some people
half chose flight, half chose fight. You think?
And some chose roll over and die, I guess. And I think like it's interesting now because we know these mRNA vaccines are insanely effective. They're more.
I'm going to start looking into this because I didn't know.
More effective than any vaccines we've ever made, ever.
But then how is it that it was developed so quickly? Is it because we had already done so much research before?
Yeah, okay. I actually looked into this a while ago because I wanted to know this. Yeah. And the thing that they couldn't get, like they could get everything, but they couldn't get how to deliver it into the body. So it's like they made this nanolipid, which is like a tiny fat particle that they surround the thing in, the mRNA.
Whenever you say nano, I'm thinking it's a little robot.
Oh, really?
It's a little robot.
Not a little iPod thingy, a little nano?
Oh, yeah. No, but I'm saying it's a little microchip in there.
Well, that's true. I mean, they can make microchips that small, maybe. I don't know. But
back to Bill Gates.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah. Apparently, Moderna made their vaccine in like 2 weeks, basically, which maybe is the reason why I had such terrible side effects. So maybe they should spend more time on it like Pfizer. I don't know. But you know, they're crazy feats of achievement, and it's really exciting to know that maybe cancer and AIDS and all this stuff can be cured in the future.
I didn't even know that we had a vaccine for lung cancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
And then also, like, I was watching like Hulu, and like one of the ads was like, oh yeah, you know, like HIV, and like, you know, you used to have AIDS, but like, I'm like, wait, what? Why isn't this like on the front of the news? We have a shot for this now?
Yeah.
Or medication?
Well, so the gay community knows about it. So if you go to like West Hollywood, the buses and like there used to be buses and like billboards being like, do you have PrEP?
Yeah, and it sucks because, you know, back in the day, like I lost some friends to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
And it's like, man, if only, you know, it could have waited, but you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, right?
Yeah.
But you know, the other thing about COVID is that it would have been really interesting had Donald Trump not been president. And I'm not saying about like how he handled it or anything like that. I'm talking more about like the optics of just him being president, of how the U.S. would have handled.
Yeah, I am constantly because at the end of the day, like, a lot of this was also the CDC's fault, and it's not like he appointed Fauci, and I think he's great, but they also did say very early on masks were useless, they were dangerous actually, and like, having lived in Asia, I know that's not true.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's like I always say, look at what people do and not what they say. It's like when Taiwan has cut off all exports of N95 masks, and they make most of them in the world at the time, and they're just saying, no, everyone in our country gets 2 a week. We're going to have rations for them.
Yeah.
People would line up and get their weekly ration of masks. Yeah, masks are effective. Like, you know, like...
You know, the thing about Taiwan is that I think like their COVID deaths are like 3.
Yeah,
it's like, man, imagine being like those 3 people, like, dude.
And I think a lot of them were actually brought into Taiwan.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
It's because they lived through SARS, and so they're like, and this was just like another variant of SARS, basically. And like, for me, it was like, do we really think our scientists are more like that? Taiwanese scientists are dumb, and that they're just inventing shit?
Yeah,
like, obviously not. Like, this is a first world country. Like,
yeah.
And, you know, living in Japan, I was completely used to wearing a mask when I was sick, or other people wearing masks when they were sick. I know they work, because I got pneumonia in Japan like several times, but I never got sick from anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas in the U.S., like, especially at Riot, like every single cold, everything I got, because, you know, those keyboards are filthy.
You know what makes me happy is that at least I feel that going to work sick, because, you know, we get so conditioned, like, I just gotta go, man. Like, hey, I can't go to work. Like, sorry, dude, you gotta come to work. Yeah. That's gonna be gone, because I can't imagine like going back to work and somebody coughing and sneezing, because people are like that. Yeah. People still are down to go, like, dude, go home, and they're like, nah, and I'm okay.
Like, get the fuck out.
Yeah, no. But now it's gonna be like, I don't know, like an HR.
Check.
It's going to be like a fucking HR concern where they go.
You have to get your temperature checked anyways, and it's like, oh, well, you have a fever. Go home. Yeah. Thank God. But I don't work in an office anymore, Rip. So.
Hey, the dream.
Well, not really. I actually like talking to people, so this has been very nice.
Well, Janelle, thank you so much for coming down.
You.
This was super fun. I could talk to you like for a couple more hours, because there's so many more conspiracy theories and stuff.
I have so many to talk about, like the fact that plateaus might be ancient tree stumps. Yes. Oh my God, it's so good. What?
But congratulations on Stellari.
Thank you.
You know, best of luck, and you know, let revenge drive you. It's the best. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.